Chapter 1691. Yuan Liang felt that this kind of life was pretty good even though he had two gluttonous snakes. However, it was pretty good to be able to live with a girl. Furthermore, the first reader of his comics was a girl who would give him some opinions. The comics that the two of them completed together were much better than before. Their income had also increased. However, the girl did not have any special feelings for Yuan Liang. At most, she was grateful to him for saving her life. Furthermore, she seemed to be waiting for someone. Until one day the Snake King appeared. When he saw his son wrapped around an eagle's hand, he attacked without any explanation. Before the girl could react, Yuan Liang was killed, and Yuan Liang turned into a dead eagle. The girl knew that this person had saved her and even took care of the baby. She was angry that the Snake King had killed Yuan Liang. The Snake King said that eagles and snakes were natural enemies. He fed the two children to wait for them to grow up so that he could swallow them. The world of demons was very cruel. The girl was skeptical. In the end, she buried Yuan Liang's corpse. Actually, it was useless to bury it. It was very likely that demons would dig it out and eat it. A world without spiritual energy was just so miserable. Yuan Liang, who had turned the tables, had mixed feelings. He was definitely indignant. His heart was cold. Ning Shu sighed. This was the real story of the farmer and the snake. However, snakes and eagles were natural enemies. When they met, they would fight to their deaths. However, the root of this matter was that Yuan Liang had fallen in love with this girl who was pregnant with a snake baby. This was the reason why Yuan Liang endured all of this. Kindness was not power. Kindness required power. Yuan Liang's wish was to live. He did not want to be killed by the Snake King. He secretly wanted to give the Snake King a hard time. Ning Shu pulled up his pants and felt that his hemorrhoids were a little painful. Even demons could not avoid these diseases? The client must have sat in front of the computer every day. After sitting for too long, he got hemorrhoids. Ning Shu thought for a moment and decided to test his water nomological power. Ning Shu tapped his finger in front of him and a drop of water the size of a football appeared in front of him. Ning Shu planned to use the water to flush the toilet. However, the water smashed into the toilet bowl and splashed everywhere. Ning Shu's pants were wet. Indescribable places were wet. Ning Shu was speechless. He was a little unfamiliar with it. After all, he wasn't as proficient as he was in Water City. At most, he would only be able to use the laws like this. It would not affect the plane at all. However, he could also turn the water into water arrows, which could also be considered a form of attack. Ning Shu changed his pants and sat cross-legged on the bed to cultivate. As he thought to himself, he lowered his head and saw that his hands had turned into sharp eagle claws, shining with a cold luster. One was a Snake King, and the other was an ordinary mountain eagle. The disparity in strength was quite large. Most importantly, they didn't even give him a chance to refute before killing him. He didn't even have the ability to fight back. Only those with strength have the right to be kind. The eagle claws slowly turned into pale and slender fingers. Ning Shu began to slowly cultivate. The male and female leads of this world should be the Snake King and the girl. As for the client, he felt like a temporary bodyguard. He had fallen in love with this girl. This was a very good reason. When the main character arrived, the male lead saw that his child's mother was actually together with a man. Moreover, it was with his natural enemy. It was so dangerous to leave the child in the hands of a natural enemy. Angry and jealous, he killed the client. But who asked the client to be so weak? He died in an instant. Even if it was explained later, a person dying was like a lamp going out. The client, Yuan Liang, also had a fluke mentality. Since the pregnant girl had such a strong demonic aura, he should know that she was pregnant with the child of a big demon. But the child's father didn't appear. The client thought that something might have happened to him or that he was dead. Waves of fiery yang energy surged into Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu felt uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Fiery yang energy was the most yang energy in the world. It seemed to conflict with the demonic aura in the client's body. It pulled his body until it hurt a little. Ning Shu pointed his finger and water droplets appeared in front of him. Ning Shu drank a mouthful and felt his dry throat feel a little better. There was little spiritual energy in the modern plane. He couldn't absorb much spiritual energy. Fiery yang energy seemed to conflict with demonic aura. Then he couldn't cultivate. The Yin gathering array gathered Yin Chi from the evil Yin Chi. Cultivate Yin Chi, my ass. Are you trying to cultivate into a ghost? After thinking about it, the ultimate martial art was still absorbing the power of the stars. Forget about absorbing the essence of the stars. He couldn't go to the rooftop at night. In a big city like this, car exhaust and all kinds of pollution were serious. He couldn't see the stars at night. Demons living in a big city were a little miserable. Ning Shu held his chin and sighed. How should he attract the power of the stars? That was a problem. It seemed that only one world used the power of the stars. Ning Shu rubbed his stomach. He was a little hungry. Ning Shu got out of bed, dragged his shoes and opened the fridge. There was nothing to eat in the fridge. In the end, he found a bag of frozen dumplings in the freezer. He cooked the dumplings and ate them. Ning Shu pointed his finger at the pot. Half a pot of clear water appeared in the pot. It was really too convenient. Then he prepared to turn on the gas. But he couldn't light it up. Ning Shu shook the natural gas tank and found that there was no gas inside. Ning Shu was furious. He wanted to eat the dumplings raw. Fortunately, he had exchanged for a fasting pill. Ning Shu ate a fasting pill and didn't feel so hungry. Ning Shu pulled open the curtains and windows. Yuan Liang's room wasn't big. It was rented. Sunlight shone into the room, piercing Ning Shu's eyes. He opened the window to let the air in the room pass. The house was cramped, and it was another day of living alone. After that girl came, this place would become warm and cozy. Ning Shu took out her phone. She took out some money and prepared to go to the convenience store downstairs to buy something. He also carried a can of gas home. Occasionally, he still had to eat something to satisfy his craving. Fasting pills were only eaten when the conditions were tough and there was no other way. Ning Shu counted with his fingers. There was still some time before he met the female lead. During this time, he still had to find a way to cultivate. If he could use less of the laws, he would use less of them. Especially since his control of the laws wasn't as pure as fire. At most, he would get some water to drink when he was thirsty and occasionally practice the attack power of water. But he still had to cultivate peerless martial arts. Ning Shu carried the bag in one hand and the gas in the other home. The person who entrusted him wasn't weak. He was also a monster. Although he was thin, he was strong. But he was a short-sighted eagle. He originally had good eyesight, but now he had a pair of blurred myopia. He looked at things with narrowed eyes. If it was in the mountains, how would he hunt? The era didn't only change humans, but also monsters. Ning Shu carried the can of gas home. After he was done, he continued to cook the dumplings. Monsters needed a lot of energy every day. In order to not consume energy and turn into their original form, they could only eat more every day. Chapter 1692. The client had to pay rent for the manga and feed himself. Moreover, he had to eat meat all the time. It was a little difficult. It was a bitter life. His living space was compressed. He didn't even have a place to hunt. He could only live like a human. He was a wild monster that was difficult to tame. He had to abide by the law. Otherwise, the investigation bureau would come knocking on his door. He was taken away by the investigation bureau. As for what happened to him, whether they were used for experiments or slaughtered for meat, no one knew. After all, humans were also terrifying foodies. The monsters that went in didn't come out. In short, the investigation bureau was a terrifying place in the hearts of the monsters. It was said that the investigation bureau had detailed information on the monsters. Ning Shu ate the hot dumplings. After eating, she turned on the computer. She had to earn money. Otherwise, she would have to sleep on the streets. There wouldn't even be a place to shelter herself from the rain. Ning Shu browsed through the client's manga. Yes, it was about an eagle that grew up stumbling and then came to a big city. All kinds of rustic behavior. It was a funny daily manga. It wasn't very popular. Ning Shu touched the keyboard. The heart of a Fujoshi emerged. She wanted to draw a pure love story. Yes, the original form should be based on the school doctor. Who was the school doctor again? The silver-haired man, 2333, or Enpi? Ning Shu coughed. She was a righteous child. Yuan Liang's manga was still being updated. Ning Shu uploaded some completed manga. Seeing the small amount of royalties, Ning Shu wanted to chop off the eunuch's head. She might as well draw an Enpi story. Ning Shu took a paintbrush and randomly drew a matchstick figure on the screen that was specially used for manga. She had never drawn a manga before. She didn't know the basic knowledge of manga. She found some knowledge of manga on the internet and took out a manga knowledge book from the bookshelf behind the computer desk to read. Ning Shu decided to continue drawing Yuan Liang's manga. She would just treat it as practice. For the next story, she should draw a ghost story. Anyway, she had experienced a ghost story before. Even if she didn't succeed, she could still make a living. Ning Shu slowly drew the characters in Yuan Liang's story. It was an imitation. The drawing was a little stiff. However, he could only take it slow. After some time, Ning Shu rubbed his swollen eyes and applied some eye drops. Ning Shu blinked and prepared to get some meat to eat. For some reason, Ning Shu felt hungry. His body needed energy. She had eaten a fasting pill before, but she was hungry. If it was an ordinary person, a single fasting pill would last for at least 10 days. Ning Shu threw the pork trotters into the pressure cooker and added some soybeans. Yep, stewed pork trotters with soybeans. Boobs. Ning Shu touched his chest and sighed. The pressure cooker screeched. Ning Shu opened the pressure cooker, and the smell of meat filled the air. Damn, it smells so good. Ning Shu was craving for it. Ning Shu ate the pork trotters and drank the soup, finishing the whole pot of meat. Looking at the bones on the table, Ning Shu's heart was a little broken. It was late. Ning Shu climbed to the rooftop, planning to go to the rooftop to attract the power of the stars. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground and looked up at the dark sky. There were no stars in the sky. Even if there were, they would be polluted and could not be seen. The power of the stars could be used in that world, probably because there were many moons. There were many moons. Ning Shu touched his chin and pondered. What should he do now? Without strength, he would only end up with the same fate as the person who entrusted him. That Snake King was so powerful that he could kill anything. Ning Shu still wanted to see the Snake King, beat him down, and then pull open his pants to see if there were 2 dicks. There had always been a rumor that snakes had 2 dicks, but he did not know if it was true. He wanted to take a look with a scientific attitude. Moreover, didn't humans and animals have reproductive isolation? How could they give birth to eggs? Ning Shu's thoughts were getting further and further away. He was a little tired. How could he attract the power of the stars? The pollution was so serious that even the atmosphere could not heal itself. If the pollution was too serious, there was no way to self-regulate. In order to not be destroyed, this plane could only push everything back. When that time came, it would really be the end of the world. What flash flood, what mudslide, what volcanic eruption, all life would be destroyed. Then, they would wait for life to evolve again. This was the self-healing of the plane. Why else would it be said that humans like to court death? Ning Shu scratched his hair and felt that it was a little oily. The person who entrusted him probably hadn't washed his hair for a few days. Sigh, that was how otakus were. Ning Shu thought about how to use the power of the stars. Ning Shu bit his finger, squeezed out blood, and drew a talisman in front of him. The effect of this talisman was like a magnifying glass gathering sunlight, hoping to gather a bit of the power of the stars. A weak power of the stars tilted down and shone on the talisman in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu hurriedly moved forward and let the power of the stars shine on his body. Ning Shu used his peerless martial arts and absorbed the power of the stars. Bits and pieces of the power of the stars blended into his meridians and finally gathered in his dantian. It was pitiful. There wasn't much. And the power of the stars that penetrated the dark clouds and tilted down became weaker and weaker. In the end, it was completely gone. Ning Shu could only stop cultivating and look at the few weak stars in his dantian. There wasn't enough power of the stars. And there was no moon in the sky. If there was a moon, the power of the stars might be a little more. At night, the dew was heavy. Ning Shu went downstairs and returned home. Ning Shu stood in front of the window, squeezing blood out of his wound and drawing a talisman to gather energy. A weak power of the stars shone into the window. Ning Shu hurriedly absorbed it. Monsters living in the modern world were a little bitter. They swallowed the essence of the sun and moon and absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. But now there was nothing. Ning Shu cultivated for a night without any results. He wasted a lot of his blood. Ning Shu used a mop to clean up the bloodstains on the ground. He took out noodles from the fridge and prepared to eat them with the leftover trotter's soup from last night. Ning Shu almost ate a large bowl of noodles. It tasted good. After eating, Ning Shu turned on the computer and began to draw comics. Ning Shu didn't draw well, so he treated it as practice. He began to think of a new comic. Ning Shu yawned. His hands weren't slow. He felt like he was floating. After updating the comic, Ning Shu drew some beautiful characters in the book when he had nothing to do. The beautiful characters were pleasing to the eye. Whether a comic was successful or not depended on the image and setting of the characters. He had to think carefully. At noon, Ning Shu was hungry again. He found some snacks to eat and drew while eating. Fortunately, Ning Shu had some embroidery skills, which was a little helpful for drawing. He could only practice bit by bit. It wasn't easy to make a living. It was even harder for monsters to make a living among humans. Ning Shu admired Yuan Liang for being able to make a living with his pen. Quite a number of demons were coolies. Chapter 1693. Monsters all had their own skills. Some were agile and some were strong. They found jobs based on their own characteristics. Basically, there were demons lurking in every one of the 365 professions. In short, they were all struggling to survive. Furthermore, monsters did not systematically accept knowledge like humans. Some demons would learn the knowledge of humans. They could even do business and politics among humans. There were only a small number of demons. Most monsters were wild and difficult to tame. They could only do simple jobs. As a mountain eagle, Yuan Liang was a cartoonist. Although he was a cartoonist who barely made a living, very barely, he was still a cartoonist who worked with words. Ning Shu was scratching his head when it came to drawing comics. It was so complicated. He had to draw eyes, hair, body proportions, male and female body proportions, and different feelings for different ages. What the hell was with the hooking net and painting shadows? Ning Shu read a lot of comics when he had nothing to do. He looked at all kinds of tutorials and kept practicing on the photo. Ning Shu continued drawing according to the outline left behind by Yuan Liang. However, Ning Shu's characters were a little stiff. They hurt their hands, brains, eyes, and hemorrhoids. He felt like he was going to go bald if he continued. Ning Shu painstakingly finished a chapter of the comic and prepared to go out to buy things. Ning Shu bought some things that were not starving. He did not have much money left in his bank card. He had to pay the rent soon. It was such a small house and the monthly rent was not cheap. Come on. Ning Shu first tried to draw a 4-panel comic on Weibo. It was the simpler kind. He might be able to gain some popularity. It did not take much time since it was only 4 panels. The pressure to survive was very high. When he was not drawing comics, Ning Shu would play games. After he was familiar with the game, he could earn some money by helping others level up. Or he could play games and get some equipment and gold coins. He was always struggling to survive. Most of the money was used by Ning Shu to buy meat. Ning Shu was wondering if he should find a new way out. Could it be that all monsters could eat so much? He wanted to find a stable job with subsidies. It was best if he could eat his fill. However, there was no such job. Furthermore, Yuan Liang was an otaku and rarely interacted with others. Going out for work was a big problem. He had been alone for too long and had lost the ability to communicate. When an Yu Yun appeared in Yuan Liang's life, Yuan Liang fell in love with her. It was not surprising that he fell in love with the warmth of someone's company. Ning Shu drew comics during the day and drew talismans at night to draw upon the power of the stars to cultivate. However, it seemed that there wasn't much star power, and it was somewhat heterogeneous. Ning Shu's cultivation progress was very slow. However, Ning Shu discovered that she had obtained a new skill. She could dehydrate vegetables and turn them into dried vegetables. If he was in a hurry to wear the freshly washed clothes, he could directly dehydrate the clothes. The effect would be great. It was the evaporation of water into gas. There were many states of water. Well, in the future, clothes can be worn after washing. Laws could change one's life. Judging from the dehydration of vegetables and clothes, would she be able to evaporate the blood in a person's body one day? Would the person die then? Thinking about it, it was also a great killing weapon. Moreover, water could also be used to kill on a large scale. For example, a flood could cause a mountain to collapse. It was an AoE skill. There were many more skills waiting for him to unlock in the law of water. It was simply awesome. Water was extremely hard and indestructible. It could also be soft and nourish all things. Ning Shu didn't think that his law of water was bad. It could attack and defend. It could also be cute. As expected, his own things were the best. Ning Shu hummed a song as he bought things in the supermarket. At the counter selling fresh pork, the guy who chopped the thigh bone was a monster. He was tall and strong. He held a thick knife on the chopping board and kept chopping the bone. He was definitely some kind of strength-type monster. For you, seeing that we are the same kind, the portion is enough. The big monster put the meat in a bag and threw it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu caught the bag and said, "Since we are the same kind, why don't you give me more? It's just that the portion is enough. Aren't you embarrassed?" The big monster snorted. "It's good enough that the portion is enough. It's not even enough for humans to weigh. For the same amount, you have more than others. Be content." Ning Shu squinted. "You've learned bad things from humans. I'm just an employee. The supermarket owner wants me to underweight. What can I do? I'm just an employee." The big monster said indifferently. Ning Shu held the bag and opened it to smell. "This meat is fresh, right? Of course it's fresh for you. Over there is a week old. They are all sold to humans." The big monster pointed to the freezer on the other side. "Ning Shu, is this really okay? What's there to be afraid of? Humans want to harm their own. It's none of our business." The big monster said indifferently. Anyway, there were many humans who would harm their own for money. Additives, gutter oil, poisoned milk powder, and so on. It was just to make more money. Ning Shu smiled and said to the big monster, "I'll buy from you again next time." Ning Shu smiled. The muscles on his face trembled, making him look a little fierce. Ning Shu carried the meat and bought some fruits. Fuck, so expensive. Ning Shu's liver hurt. Ning Shu carried a big bag of things and went home. The client rented a house in a small alley. Ning Shu heard messy footsteps coming this way. It was already dusk, and the slightly yellow street lights made him hear the footsteps. Ning Shu thought to himself, "They're here." Ning Shu stopped in her tracks and hid. Ning Shu did not want to save An Yuyun. It would not benefit her. She did not intend to interfere. Ning Shu's ears twitched. The footsteps were getting closer. There was the sound of rapid breathing, as well as an angry voice shouting for him to stop. Ning Shu felt a strong demonic aura getting closer and closer. It evoked an impulse in her heart. Ning Shu poked her head out and saw a pregnant woman running at full speed. While running in the narrow alley, he accidentally stepped into a pit on the ground and fell to the ground. However, the woman got up and continued running. Nothing happened to her at all. Her big belly was bouncing up and down. Nothing happened. Ning Shu, that the child in her belly was so strong. A huge spider jumped in front of the girl. The girl fell to the ground in fright. Her belly bounced twice again. The girl looked at the spider that was the size of a desk in horror. The spider had a human head, a huge belly, and several legs. The hair on the legs was clearly visible. It was really a disgusting and terrifying monster. There was a big spider in front of her. An Yuyun looked behind her and saw that there were also monsters chasing after her. An Yuyun held her belly in horror, not knowing what to do. She had an erotic dream out of the blue, and then she got pregnant. Chapter 1694. Not only was she pregnant, But strange and terrifying people and monsters had appeared around her for no reason. These monsters were always trying to eat her up. They had always been hunting her down. Where was the bastard who did that to her? She remembered that it was a handsome man. She once thought that she had a romantic relationship with a man in a dream. In the end, she was pregnant. Who could tell her why she could get pregnant in a dream? Most importantly, Mommy, don't be afraid. The baby will protect you. A child's childish voice came from in Yuyun's stomach. That was the most terrifying thing. Why could the child in her stomach speak? In Yuyun was surrounded by several monsters. These monsters looked at in Yuyun's stomach greedily and licked their lips. My life is over. In Yuyun was a little desperate. Ning Shu hid at the side and looked at the surrounded in Yuyun. No matter what, she didn't want to get involved in this matter. Snake King had killed the client. She had to seek justice from Snake King no matter what. Going against Snake King naturally meant going against In Yuyun. She would be standing on the opposite side of In Yuyun. They were a family of 4. However, In Yuyun was the client's woman. She wouldn't kick her when she was down, but she wouldn't save her either. It was already a little difficult for her to support herself now. She still had to support a pregnant woman with 2 eggs. In Yuyun was pregnant. The child in her stomach needed nutrition and energy. She ate a lot. It was unimaginable for 2 people who could eat so much to be together. Thinking of this, Ning Shu felt that Yuan Liang was a bit of a hero. He didn't know what had happened to Snake King to leave his wife and child behind. Then Yuan Liang, the bodyguard, appeared in a flash. He provided food and shelter to ensure her safety. Love was that great. Ning Shu hid his aura and didn't appear. He just watched everything silently. He felt a little complicated. It was probably how the client felt. And Yuyun clutched her stomach. She couldn't retreat. She looked terrified and helpless. At this time, it would be great if someone could save her. She knew that these monsters wanted to eat her baby. However, this was her child. Although it was a little strange, she was too scared in the beginning and deliberately fell down from upstairs. However, the child in her stomach was still there. He was already lying on the operating table, but in the end he still rushed out of the operating room. Although it was a little strange that the child could speak in her stomach, it was still her child. And Yuyun picked up the rusty steel pipe on the ground and confronted the demons surrounding her. No one was allowed to harm her child. The huge, ugly, and smelly spider took the lead and rushed towards Yuyun. For a monster like this that couldn't even take human form, as long as it ate the monster's fetus, it would possess powerful monster power. Yuyun's hands and feet went soft. She stared blankly at the spiders that were shooting towards her. She screamed in fright and waved her steel pipe wildly with her eyes closed. However, he didn't expect that he would be able to kill the old master with his fists. In addition, Yuyun released a very powerful attack from her stomach, which sent the big spider flying. The big spider fell heavily to the ground and stared at Ning Shu, who was hiding at the side. Ning Shu was speechless. Coincidentally, the spider was sent flying into the narrow passageway where she was hiding. Interesting. It seemed like the plot was always developing in the right direction. There's another person here, the human-headed spider shrieked sharply. It opened its mouth and Ning Shu spat out white silk. Ning Shu carried something and flipped back a few times to avoid the spider's silk. He half squatted on the ground and adjusted his slipping glasses. I'm just a passerby. Why do you have to fight? With your monstrous appearance, you will be dealt with by the investigation bureau sooner or later. How dare you stir up trouble? Go back to the sewers and stay there. Ning Shu stood up. The spider was very smelly. It had a foul stench on its body. The human-headed spider opened its mouth and smiled. Its sharp teeth looked very ferocious. That woman is our prey. If you know what's good for you, scram. Ning Shu roared. When Ning Shu said that, the smell coming from his mouth was too pungent. He could smell the stench from 5 meters away. Ning Shu took a few steps back and spread his hands. Continue. I'm just passing by. Save me. Save me. And Yuyun ran over to Ning Shu with a steel pipe. Mommy, that person is also a demon. Don't go over, the baby in her stomach reminded Yuyun. And Yuyun had no choice. Compared to these ferocious demons, this demon looked more like a good person. He wore glasses and looked refined. And Yu Yun really couldn't stand being hunted down by demons every day. Ning Shu was rendered speechless. The gigantic spider immediately spat out silk at Yu Yun. The yellowish-white silk the size of an electric wire wrapped around Yu Yun's body. The spider's silk had a disgusting stench. Yu Yun nearly vomited. If you're really just passing by, leave quickly. Pretend you didn't see what happened today. A few demons suddenly surrounded Yu Yun. Yu Yun struggled in the spider silk. The spider silk was extremely sticky and poisonous. Yu Yun felt herself becoming numb and unable to move. Yu Yun looked pleadingly at Ning Shu, begging Ning Shu to save her. Ning Shu remained expressionless. Why aren't you leaving? The demons looked warily at Ning Shu. Ning Shu carried 2 bags full of items and prepared to leave. Ning Shu walked past Yu Yun expressionlessly. Yu Yun looked at Ning Shu with teary eyes. Her eyes were filled with longing and anticipation. Ning Shu looked straight ahead and walked past her. Suddenly, Ning Shu's heart convulsed violently. It was excruciating. Ning Shu clutched his chest. His other hand could not help but support himself against the wall. That was why people called Yuan Liang a pure and innocent otaku. His body's reaction told Ning Shu that he had to save her. Ning Shu was rendered speechless. Ning Shu ignored his body's reaction and continued walking forward. The pain in his heart intensified. The person Yuan Liang liked was Yu Yun. Even if he died, it had nothing to do with Yu Yun. It was only because he was not competitive in this relationship that he could only be a loser. Ning Shu held his forehead. What kind of thoughts was Yuan Liang having? Not everything could be explained in terms of love. Using love as a reason meant that it was revered. It was as though dying for love was something impressive. Heh. Since you felt that your death was worth it, why did you have to counterattack? Ning Shu clutched his chest. The pain was unbearable. It was as though a pair of large hands were squeezing his heart tightly. Even his breathing began to quicken. Ning Shu put down the bags and turned around to look at the demons. He clenched his fists and charged at them. He punched one unconscious and sent another flying with a kick. Then he took off his jacket and put it on Yu Yun. He carried Yu Yun and the 2 bags and ran off. Ning Shu wrapped Yu Yun with a water curtain. The spider silk on her body was extremely smelly. It made Ning Shu suffocate. Chapter 1695. Ning Shu carried Yu Yun and ran home. Ning Shu quickly set up an invisible water curtain in his house to cover Yu Yun's demon aura. It turned out that Yuan Liang used his own strength to cover up Yu Yun's powerful demon aura. Ning Shu would not waste his strength so kindly. If Snake King came, she would not even have the strength to fight back. He set up a water curtain directly. The water could cover up all the aura. Ning Shu said to Yu Yun, "Go to the bathroom and clean yourself up." Yu Yun's face was a little dark, and her words were unclear. "I can't move." Her body was numb. Yu Yun was poisoned. The spider silk was poisonous. Ordinary people would be poisoned to death if they touched the spider silk. Now Yu Yun was alive because of the baby in her belly. Ning Shu carried Yu Yun into the bathroom. He put on gloves and poured water on Yu Yun with the shower head. Yu Yun shivered and bit her lips. The spider silk was not only poisonous, but also very tough. It could not be torn by hand. Ning Shu cut the spider silk with a pair of scissors. Ning Shu turned off the shower head and said, "Wash yourself." Ning Shu found a t-shirt and shorts in the wardrobe and gave them to Yu Yun. He said lightly, "These are my clothes. Just wear them." "Thank you." Yu Yun took the clothes with purple lips. Ning Shu glanced at the poisoned Yu Yun and closed the door. Ning Shu was not worried that Yu Yun would die at all. After all, there were 2 babies in her belly. There must be a way. After all, they were the children of a big monster. They were not born, but their demon power was stronger than some monsters. There was no way to compare with them. Ning Shu washed the meat and stewed it in the pressure cooker. Then he turned on the computer and began to draw comics. There was the sound of running water in the bathroom. Yu Yun was taking a bath. And Yu-yun probably smelled too bad. It took her nearly 40 minutes to come out. Ning Shu's meat was ready. And Yu-yun came out with her wet hair. She was wearing Ning Shu's clothes and looked very petite. Even though she was pregnant, and Yu-yun was still very petite. It was just that her belly was bulging. Her lips were no longer blue and purple. It was obvious that the poison had been cured. Her pink lips and small nose were revealed. And Yu-yun could be considered a little beauty, and she was the kind of woman who would make people want to protect her at first sight. Seeing a strange man staring at her, and Yu-yun couldn't help but lower her head and whisper, "Thank you for saving me." Ning Shu grunted and glanced at Yu-yun's belly. "You're pregnant with 2 demons. Did you have illicit sex with them?" Ning Shu's words were a bit harsh, making Yu-yun's face turn red and purple. She didn't know how to explain. She believed in materialism and did not believe that there were ghosts or monsters in this world. But recently, her worldview had been impacted. She was pregnant after having an erotic dream for no reason. "I'm also a demon. The children in your belly are very attractive to me. They have a strong demon aura. If I eat them, I should be able to obtain a strong demon power," Ning Shu said as he scooped 2 bowls of meat from the pressure cooker. And Yu-yun held her belly and took 2 steps back. She looked at Ning Shu and said with a dry smile, "I don't think you will hurt me." "What? Do you think I like you and can't bear to hurt you?" Ning Shu said casually. The steam in the bowl fogged her glasses, making Ning Shu's glasses white. Well, Ning Shu couldn't see. Myopia was miserable. And Yu-yun looked at Ning Shu, who was wiping his eyes with a tissue, and said, "My intuition tells me that you won't hurt me." Ning Shu was speechless. Therefore, people could sometimes feel that the other party liked them. Some people just pretend that they don't know and enjoy your kindness to them. Only love and faith could not be let down. It was a blessing to have someone like you, not to take advantage of this love. There was nothing wrong with openly stating, "I will hurt you." Ning Shu's fingers turned into sharp and cold eagle claws as he walked in front of Yu-yun. The sharp claws slid gently on Yu-yun's belly, and Yu-yun quickly shrank her belly. "Little demon, you are not allowed to hurt my mother. My brother is a very powerful person." A soft and cute Loli's voice sounded from Yu-yun's belly. Ning Shu said in surprise, "It's actually a boy and a girl." "A boy and a girl. You will have both a boy and a girl in one pregnancy. Otherwise, why would she be called the female lead?" And Yu-yun smiled shyly. "Anyway, thank you for saving me." Ning Shu's eagle claws turned into hands. He sat at the table and said indifferently, "Let's eat." And Yu-yun had long been hungry. When she saw the meat in her bowl, she immediately sat down and began eating. "You don't have to thank me. I didn't want to save you." Ning Shu's eyes turned misty again. He couldn't afford to be short-sighted. It was because Yuan Liang wanted to save her. No matter what, and Yu-yun was the person he liked. "But you still saved me. You are a good demon," and Yu-yun said. "You are different from the demon that chased after me." Ning Shu only scoffed. She couldn't eat a fetus or 2 snakes. Ning Shu asked, "Where did the demon that was entangled with you go?" And Yu-yun shook her head and said with a red face, "I don't know either." Now that she thought about it, that night had been a bone-eroding experience. She had been completely toyed with and could only indulge in it. There was a faint musk on his body that was intoxicating. His tongue slid around her body. Now that she thought about it, and Yu-yun's body couldn't help but heat up. She was extremely embarrassed. Ning Shu said indifferently, "Snakes are lustful by nature. Perhaps you were tainted by a flower-picking snake." "Nonsense. My daddy isn't a flower-picking snake. My daddy definitely likes my mommy." "You blind eagle, don't try to sow discord between my parents." The child in Yu-yun's stomach immediately cried out. "Sorry, the child doesn't know any better. Please don't take offense." And Yu-yun forced herself to apologize to Ning Shu. She was a little traumatized. That night, the person looked like he was really good at sex. He looked very skilled. And Yu-yun's heart ached a little. Could it be that she was sad for a man whose name she didn't even know because she was pregnant? "Bad guy. You are a bad guy," the little girl yelled. The little Loli shouted, Big brother, you must beat this blind eagle to death. He's too bad, too bad. Ning Shu suddenly felt that the entire situation was inexplicably familiar. He felt that it was a familiar routine. One night of love, and then she got pregnant. However, she got pregnant with 2 snakes. The 2 children were a godly assist. His heart was so tired. Anyway, there was plenty of time. However, demons had long lifespans and humans had short lifespans. How could this be resolved? Chapter 1696. Therefore, this time, Yuan Liang was actually a backup male supporting character. In fact, he couldn't even be considered a male supporting character. At best, he was a relatively weak character who loved An Yuyun and volunteered to take on the responsibility of taking care of her. He was responsible for meticulously taking care of An Yuyun and the 2 babies during Snake King's disappearance. When the main character returned, he would use the excuse of being a natural enemy to destroy his love rival. Perhaps in the eyes of outsiders, Yuan Liang was a toad lusting after a swan's meat. He didn't even say thank you and even wanted to kill him. Were all demons like this? No, they would attack without saying a word? When Ning Shu saw that An Yuyun had finished the meat in her bowl, he asked, "Do you still want to eat?" "Thank you, but I don't feel like eating anymore," An Yuyun said to Ning Shu. Since she didn't want to eat, the rest was his. Ning Shu didn't force An Yuyun to eat. An Yuyun clearly didn't eat enough. Previously, she heard from Ning Shu that the one who had sex with her that night might have been a flowery snake. An Yuyun's heart felt stifled. She couldn't even eat anymore. Ning Shu didn't feel that his words had caused trouble for her. He gnawed on the bone as he said, "Sleep on the sofa in the living room. It's best if you don't leave here. Once you do, your demonic aura will be exposed. Of course, I won't stop you if you want to leave." And Yuyun nodded. "Thank you." "Blind Eagle, are you a gentleman? How can you let my mommy sleep in the living room? You should be the one sleeping in the living room." The lowly's voice came from her belly. Ning Shu pushed his glasses up. "This is my room. I paid the rent. What's wrong with me sleeping in the bedroom? Who said I should sleep on the sofa?" Ning Shu licked the oil on his fingers. "Don't make demands of others so naturally." Although the young lowly sounded cute when she said such words, she was actually very domineering. It was as if others should do everything for them and do it meticulously. Helping you is a favor. Not helping you is a duty. You're a man. What's wrong with taking care of a woman? Moreover, she's a pregnant woman. You're too ungentlemanly, little lowly couldn't help but say. Don't talk about gender. Men and women are all humans. Give me a reason. Should I take care of your mother? Ning Shu asked. Society seemed to be taking care of women, but in fact, it was depriving women of their right to compete fairly. This was the kind of female captivity. It was as if women should be taken care of. Women shouldn't do difficult jobs, shouldn't compete, and shouldn't fight for benefits. Children were really domineering. They knew that their fathers were amazing, but now they were still relying on others to protect them. Didn't they know how to behave? Good, you guys are awesome, you guys are incredible. The little lowly was mumbling something in her stomach. Ning Shu didn't know what she was saying, but she couldn't hear it clearly. Ning Shu hated naughty children the most. I'm sorry, I'm just a child. And Yuyun awkwardly said, I can sleep on the sofa. Thank you for giving me a place to stay. Ning Shu put away the bowls and chopsticks and was about to wash the dishes. And Yuyun quickly stood up. Her stomach bounced up and down twice. Ning Shu's eyebrows twitched. Her vitality was really tenacious. Nothing would happen to the child. Ordinary pregnant women were very careful, but in Yuyun's stomach was fine. Even if she fell to the ground, she could still get up and continue running. Let me wash the dishes. I don't have anything to repay you. I'll do the housework. And Yuyun took the bowl and chopsticks from Ning Shu. Ning Shu directly gave the bowl and chopsticks to An Yuyun. It didn't make sense for him to keep taking care of An Yuyun. And Yuyun washed the dishes in the kitchen. Ning Shu turned on the computer and started drawing comics. In the kitchen, An Yuyun's 2 babies began to talk. Mommy, don't like Blind Eagle. Compared to Daddy, he's too weak, the boy said. Yes, and he's not gentlemanly at all. Daddy will definitely come looking for us, little Loli said. Also, eagles are the natural enemies of snakes. My sister and I are in a bit of danger now, the boy said. Mommy, don't like our natural enemy. He'll eat us, little Loli said in fear. Although Ningshu's vision was blurred, his ears were sharp. When he heard the conversation in the kitchen, he couldn't help but smile. When a strange man suddenly treated a woman well, other than love, it meant that he had ulterior motives for the woman. The two children were afraid that Yuyun wouldn't like their father, so they tried their best to jump to Ningshu's fault. Love was sacrifice and dedication. It was because Yuan Liang liked Yuyun that he treated her well. He even subconsciously tried to please the two children. The two children seemed to be testing whether Yuan Liang was worthy of their mommy. In fact, the two children had their father in their hearts. However, Ningshu had a doubt in his heart. How did the two children know that she was short-sighted? How did they know that she wore glasses? Could they see through her stomach? Ningshu used the computer to look up some information about snakes. Well, some snakes didn't seem to use their eyes to see things. They used heat to sense their prey. All creatures had temperature. Snakes were very sensitive to temperature. However, as the children of the Snake King, in addition to some snake instincts, they had other powerful abilities. It was a piece of cake to see through someone's stomach. Ningshu had another idea in his heart. And Yuyun was here, so the Snake King would definitely come over. Then they could fight. Otherwise, he would have to look for the Snake King everywhere. However, where did the Snake King go? He left his wife and children alone. Ningshu held a pen for drawing comics in his hand and drew on the screen. And Yuyun cleaned the kitchen, wiped her hands on the apron, took off the apron, and walked over. She saw Ningshu's computer. You're a manga artist. Can you show me your manga? And Yuyun asked Ningshu cautiously. No, I draw erotic manga. It's not suitable for a pure person like you to read. Ningshu refused directly. And Yuyun was a little stunned and her face turned red. Vulgar. Yes, blind eagle. You're so vulgar. The two children expressed their contempt for Ningshu. Ningshu was fearless. He ignored the two children and said to Yuyun without raising his head, I'm a poor manga artist. It's a little difficult to feed myself. It's a little difficult to feed you three. You also know that I'm a monster and eat a lot. You have 2 monsters in your stomach and eat even more. And Yuyun immediately said, What can I do? I will definitely do it. And Yuyun now held onto Ningshu as a life-saving straw. There were many monsters outside who wanted to eat her children. It seemed that this was the only safe place. Although this monster looked very cold, he didn't want to eat her and her children like other monsters. It was a gamble. For a little monster like you, even if my father reveals a little of it through his fingers, it will be enough for you to enjoy. Little one, don't talk nonsense. And Yuyun touched her belly and said to Ningshu, The child is not sensible. Please don't be offended. Why would I be offended? She's not my child. Whatever she says has nothing to do with me. Ningshu said indifferently. From the little Loli's tone and ability to express herself, according to human age, the little Loli should have the mind of a 7-year-old child. She was indeed a Yao. Or was she only the descendant of a great Yao? Or was it a mutation caused by the offspring of a human and a Yao? Blind Eagle, you are the most ungentlemanly man I've ever met. The little Loli despised Ningshu. Furthermore, you are so harsh on a pregnant woman. If I'm ungentlemanly, then the demons that are chasing after you and your mother are gentlemanly. If you were an ordinary pregnant woman, I might show some concern. But you are people from the heavens. Nothing will happen. Come on, let's bicker and hurt each other. And Yuyun was speechless. Ningshu gave Yuyun a pillow and a thin blanket. Sleep on the sofa. If you find the sofa too narrow, you can sleep on the floor. The heartless Ningshu placed his hands on his hips. Don't even think of sleeping on my bed. Sometimes, if you were too nice to a person, they wouldn't take it seriously. Humans were born despicable by nature. Instead, they ended up having no bottom line. Yuan Liang treated In Yuyun really well. He basically didn't let her do anything. Sometimes, when In Yuyun cooked, Yuan Liang would eat until his eyes brimmed with tears of gratitude. Although love didn't ask for anything in return, it was a little disappointing to see In Yuyun not cry when Yuan Liang died. How can you take it for granted, my dear? In Yuyun took the pillow and thanked him. Ning Shu returned to his room and took out a cinnabar brush from the drawer. He dipped it in red cinnabar and drew a charm on the window. Ning Shu had bought the tools for drawing talismans from a rundown shop. There were many demons in the city, so it gave rise to a new business, exorcism. Some humans were pestered by demons but were powerless to resist. The exorcism business flourished with each passing day. It was impossible for the Special Events Investigation Bureau to manage everything. At this time, exorcism relied on the strength of the people. As a demon, Ning Shu went to buy the tools for drawing talismans, but the shop didn't sell it to him. At first, the shop owner thought that it was a demon seeking revenge, but in the end, he sold the items to Ning Shu. After Ning Shu finished drawing the charm, astral powers poured down and shone on Ning Shu through the window. Ning Shu hurriedly began cultivating. Otherwise, the charm's powers would be gone as time passed. Without the charm's powers, Ning Shu had to draw it again. After cultivating for an entire night, Ning Shu had to draw it many times. Just as he entered the state, the charm was no longer effective. He had to start drawing it again and cultivate again. It had never been so bitter. In a modern world where spiritual energy was scarce, it wasn't easy to draw a charm successfully. Furthermore, the charm's effects were so short. Ning Shu wanted to smash the brush. What a scam! Cultivating for an entire night wasn't as good as breathing energy for an hour in a world with rich astral powers. If this world was like this, then even the monsters would be doomed. At dawn, Ning Shu stretched and wiped the cinnabar charm on the ground with a handkerchief. When Ning Shu opened the door, In Yuyun had already woken up and was busy in the kitchen. Ning Shu leisurely washed up and lay down on the recliner on the balcony. He closed his eyes and rested. After cultivating for an entire night, his strength didn't increase by much. Instead, he cultivated a little. He kept drawing talismans, and it didn't mean that he would succeed every time he drew one. Ning Shu fell asleep in a daze. And Yuyun finished preparing breakfast and came over to wake Ning Shu up. Breakfast is ready. By the way, I still don't know your name? And Yuyun asked Ning Shu. My name is Yuan Liang. My name is In Yuyun. And Yuyun smiled at Ning Shu. Chapter 1698. In Yuyun was the kind of girl who made people feel comfortable with her small stature. Her smile was especially warm, revealing her white teeth. Her eyes were curved, and it was especially heartwarming. It warmed people's hearts just by looking at her. Of course, In Yuyun didn't have the ability to protect herself. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Ning Shu pulled out a chair and sat down. He looked at the breakfast on the table. There was a pressure cooker of meat and a few light side dishes. And Yuyun sat opposite Ning Shu cautiously and said, I don't know if you like these side dishes. It's fine. I'm not picky. Ning Shu picked up the bowl and drank a mouthful of soup. What's there to dislike if you don't cook anything and just eat ready-made food? Brother and I have never eaten Mom's cooking, the little girl muttered in her stomach. Blind eagle, a monster like you can only be lonely. Male chauvinist. Ning Shu ate the meat. Male chauvinist? She should be a female chauvinist. Ning Shu swallowed the meat in his mouth and wiped his mouth. He said indifferently, I have nothing to do with you. I took you in. What else do you want me to do? Do something that makes me feel wronged? It's not that little girls are cute. Only sensible little girls are cute. Your father might be a monster, but what does that have to do with me? I don't know him and have no friendship with him. Why do you make it seem like I'm mistreating you? And Yuyun hurriedly waved her hand. Please don't misunderstand. I didn't mean that. I'm already very grateful that you took me in. It's just that the child isn't sensible. I'll teach her slowly. Mommy. The little girl whined to an Yuyun in her stomach. He's really cold and heartless. If I treat your mother better, You will say that I'm up to no good. Ning Shu wiped his misty eyes with a tissue and put it on. It seemed that he should treat her mother well. It was best to enslave people in the name of love. Humph, no one will like a monster like you. Ning Shu said, it doesn't matter. You don't scare me. Anyway, whatever she did was wrong. Ning Shu was full. He pushed his bowl away and left the table. Then, he sat on the sofa, turned on the computer, and started drawing comics. Ning Shu had really drawn out the pure love between the school doctor and the silver-haired man. Just relying on Yuan Liang's comic daily life was a little difficult. Ning Shu wanted to match 2333 with the school doctor, but he could not imagine what 2333 looked like. She couldn't even imagine what 2333 looked like. Therefore, he simply described people with images. However, both of them were very arrogant. How should they develop? Ning Shu uploaded the comic almost in a joking mood. But surprisingly, it was more popular than the previous manga. Ning Shu tapped his chin and looked at the computer. It seemed that love was the most desired emotion of all sentient and sentient beings. Friendship and kinship were far inferior to the intensity of love. Live for it, die for it. Reason and emotions went out of control. Trembling with joy, it was the most beautiful. Tolerance and desire, conquering and being conquered, in the collision of emotions, it was a beautiful firework. It was like a moth flying into a flame. There was no reason. Their hearts and eyes were only for each other. The world was narrow and only had each other. They were so narrow that they abandoned their responsibilities and gave up everything just for the sake of being together. It was the so-called love that moved the world. It seemed that without love, people were abnormal. It would be abnormal if they didn't go crazy once. Alright, let's continue with the joking. Ning Shu looked at the computer with his chin propped up. He held a pen in one hand and continued drawing. Ning Shu felt that she was a little vengeful. She drew the picture in a flurry without pausing at all. And Yu Yun cleaned the kitchen and started mopping the floor with her big belly. She dragged it in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised his foot for her to drag. And Yu Yun held the mop and couldn't help but bite her lip. This person was really cold and heartless. Ning Shu saw that Yu Yun wasn't moving. The mop stopped at her feet. She had to keep raising her foot. What's wrong? Ning Shu asked. Are you going to give birth? No. And Yu Yun went to mop other places. Ning Shu put down her foot and looked at Yu Yun. How could she not know that Yu Yun felt wronged? She felt wrong just because she was asked to do something. The person who asked her to do it was dead. It seemed that Yu Yun felt that she should take care of her. She was a weak and helpless girl, and a pregnant weak and helpless girl. She should be gentle to her. Although she didn't know why Yu Yun had such confidence and a sense of superiority. Could it be that she had shown that she liked Yu Yun? But the problem was that there was no relationship between them. Why should she take care of you? Ning Shu didn't have any opinions about Yu Yun. The one who had opinions was the Snake King with 2 dicks. Can't we have a love that doesn't hurt other people? Wasn't it good for the two of them to live a loving life? Did they have to make their love great and immortalize it for generations to come? The shelf life of 3 years of love? Immortalizing it for generations was a bit of nonsense. All love would change and eventually become a more tolerant family. There was nothing that could be done in such a vigorous and continuous manner. Kill all those who stood in the way of love. Killing people wasn't cool at all. Ning Shu propped up her chin and imagined what it would be like when she met love. Ning Shu couldn't imagine it. Ning Shu touched her glabella. In her soul, there was a water droplet engraved there. Forget it. I'd rather love the world. Not to mention loving the world, loving missions, and loving missions with rewards. Ning Shu and Yu Yun got along peacefully. Yu Yun was in charge of housework, and Ning Shu was in charge of his work. Yu Yun said that there was no food at home. Ning Shu went out to buy a bag of food. It could last for a few days. To be honest, their consumption was a little scary. 1 meal was equivalent to 2 days of food for others. Ning Shu ate a lot, and so did Yu Yun. Occasionally, the little loli would mock Ning Shu, saying that Ning Shu wasn't a man and didn't have the demeanor of a man. She even told her mommy not to like a cold and unreasonable man like Ning Shu. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. Even if Yuan Liang was obedient to every request, it did not mean that these two children would like him. At that time, they would say that he wasn't domineering and wasn't manly. If a person was wrong and didn't have you in their heart, everything would be useless. Mistakes could be found. In short, it was important to be yourself. Usually, the little loli was the one who spoke more. Her brother rarely spoke and looked calm. The little loli's words were more harsh. If it was Yuan Liang who wasn't good at talking, he would definitely be choked by the little loli. He was very embarrassed. However, Ning Shu directly retorted. Every time, it was Yu Yun who apologized. Ning Shu didn't want to hear her say that he wasn't sensible. Only Yu Yun didn't find it tiring. Chapter 1699. According to human logic, the little loli's mind was at least that of a first grader. She just appeared small in his stomach. The little loli probably knew that her father was awesome, so she always acted like a proud little princess. Your father is awesome, not you. What's there to be smug about? If Ning Shu wanted to kill her now, it would be a matter of minutes. I'm not your father. I won't treat you like a treasure. Everyone in the world is your mother. Everyone should be used to your way of thinking. Some people might be polite to you on account of your father, but it didn't mean that everyone should be the same. Didn't those pursuits teach this arrogant little princess a lesson? Ning Shu touched his face. Did she look like a nice person and look easy to bully? And Yu Yun was a sissy. She had no position or reason to ask her to do anything. Every time the little loli was rendered speechless by Ning Shu, Yu Yun would apologize on behalf of her daughter. Ning Shu didn't care. After all, she wasn't his daughter. He didn't care what the little loli looked like. And Yu Yun either did housework or cooked every day. At night, she would be so tired that she would lie on the sofa and not want to move. The little loli felt sorry for her mother and said that Ning Shu wasn't gentlemanly. The boy occasionally said, "That eagle is our natural enemy. Don't always bicker with him. Otherwise, Mommy and we will be in danger. When Daddy comes looking for us, these days of hiding will end. Natural enemy. No wonder I always find him an eyesore. How annoying," the little loli whispered. "Mommy, that eagle left us behind. Perhaps it wants to swallow me and my sister after we are born." "That's not impossible," the boy said. And Yu Yun was instantly at a loss. She didn't know what to do. How can this be? Don't underestimate any monster. Daddy is the Snake King, a great monster. My sister and I have inherited Daddy's abilities and legacies. We know how monsters kill each other. The boy pretended to be mature when he spoke, but his voice was childish. It formed a strong contrast. And Yu Yun was shocked by her son's words. "Then should I leave this place?" "Mommy, but we have to leave. There are so many monsters outside," the little girl said. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, and Yu Yun didn't know what to do. "How can Mommy protect you? Why don't we just stay here? If this blind eagle really is up to something, we'll buy some time. Daddy will find us sooner or later, and then we won't be in any danger," the boy said. And Yu Yun's body trembled a little, and she nodded heavily. "Okay, I'll listen to you. Mommy will definitely protect you." After that, Yu Yun cleaned, washed, and cooked. She didn't dare to get close to Ning Shu. Ning Shu just raised her eyebrows. And Yu Yun was so guarded against her. Even the little loli, who was usually noisy, was now silent. Ning Shu didn't care. Even if the three of them worked together, they wouldn't be able to defeat her. They were afraid of her, but they didn't dare to leave. If they did, the demons would tear them apart like a swarm of bees. Ning Shu felt bitter for them. This was the bitterness of not having strength. Even if there was a man who hated the heavens and the earth, that man couldn't tie you to his belt and take you everywhere. Even tigers had times when they were napping. If they were careless, damn it, the woman and the child would be in trouble again. They had to put out the fire at any time, just like firefighters. And the stronger they were, the stronger their enemies were. The danger the woman faced was even greater. Therefore, there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. Ning Shu drank the meat soup and asked An Yuyun, "When are you going to give birth?" Speaking of which, when should a snake lay eggs? According to the snake state, or according to the human pregnancy cycle? Ning Shu just asked casually, but An Yuyun's face turned pale. She was very flustered. "It's still early." "It's still very early," An Yuyun said. Ning Shu didn't care. Just one sentence and she was already so frightened. It seemed like she was really scary. Ning Shu released his psyche and slowly invaded An Yuyun's stomach. She had 2 eggs in her stomach. The eggs weren't as big as an ostrich's eggs. Through the eggshell, he could see light and shadows swimming inside. They should be 2 small snakes. Ning Shu touched the 2 eggs, scaring the small snakes in the eggs. Ning Shu clicked his tongue and retracted his psyche. "Little guy, just a few pokes and you're scared. Aren't you usually so arrogant?" An Yuyun felt a little uncomfortable in her stomach. She touched her stomach, but the feeling quickly passed. "Since you feel that I have ill intentions towards you, you can leave now," Ning Shu said indifferently. "I did a good thing, but I was treated as a bad person. You're upset and I'm upset. Don't make trouble for yourselves. If you want to leave, leave. I won't stop you." And Yuyun immediately waved her hand and said anxiously, "I never said you were a bad person." And Yuyun lowered her head and ate. She didn't say she wanted to leave. At night, the mother and son trio had a regular meeting. The boy said directly, "The blind eagle is retreating in order to advance. He knows we can't get out, so he's using this method. Mommy, brother and I want to be born later. Although I don't know what the blind eagle is planning, he hasn't done anything yet. He must be waiting for us to be ripe. Mommy, Daddy left his demonic power in you. When we absorb the demonic power, we should be born. At that time, we'll be stronger than now. This way we can buy time." And Yuyun's heart was in a mess. Her son had his own ideas. Of course, she would listen to him. "Okay, then you can be born later." The little girl said, "But we'll have to trouble Mommy." "It's okay." And Yuyun felt very relaxed. She didn't feel anything when she was pregnant. She wasn't like an ordinary pregnant woman. She was fine no matter what she did. Therefore, Ning Shu saw that An Yuyun's stomach was getting bigger and bigger, but there were no signs of labor. A snake's gestation period wasn't long. It seemed that she was going to give birth to a Neza. There was another possibility. The 2 children didn't want to come out. They felt that she was a threat. If they came out, they might be eaten by her. Ning Shu smacked his lips. He didn't know what snake soup tasted like. And Yuyun was carrying the dishes. When she saw Ning Shu staring at her stomach and smacking his lips, she was a little scared. She quickly put down the dishes and ran into the kitchen. As she ran, her stomach bounced up and down. If one didn't pay attention, it would fall down. Ning Shu's heart was also jumping along with her. And Yuyun came out with a plate of vegetables. Ning Shu said, "If the egg is too big, it can't be laid. If the little snake breaks out of the shell, the eggshell will stay in your body. This is very dangerous." Chapter 1700. The eggshell was the size of an ostrich, and the snake inside grew bigger and bigger. Eventually, it would break through the eggshell and crawl out of the body. However, the eggshell remained in the body. Surgery was needed to remove it. Was it fun to keep it in the stomach? And Yuyun just said, "It's okay. The baby has to develop well. It can't be born thin and weak." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. According to Ning Shu's observation, the child in the egg was already quite big. If it grew any bigger, it would break through the eggshell. It's already the due date. Why didn't you give birth? Ning Shu felt extremely disgusted just thinking about the snake in the body. The long snake crawled out of the body. Therefore, cross-species love was dangerous. Ning Shu felt that snakes were a species that looked more terrifying. They spat out forked tongues and had sharp teeth. Crawling out of the body, Ning Shu didn't know why the Snake King wanted to have sex with a human girl. It was because he felt sorry for An Yuyun. So he sneaked into her house and had sex with her. Or he wanted to keep the seed and let the human girl bear his selfish child. Why didn't he look for a demon? There were female snake demons. Why did he look for a human? Ning Shu could only attribute it to the attraction between humans. Ning Shu asked An Yuyun to give birth to the child earlier so that the eggshell wouldn't stay in the body. But the more Ning Shu asked An Yuyun to give birth to the child earlier, the more An Yuyun felt that Ning Shu was a little unkind and wanted to eat her child. However, she didn't dare to fall out with Ning Shu directly. She just said, "When the child is ripe, it will fall." It was none of her business when An Yuyun gave birth, so Ning Shu didn't say anything more. If he had the time to talk to An Yuyun, he might as well draw his own manga. The royalties of the manga were enough for Ning Shu to live on. At least, he could eat whatever he wanted. He didn't know how the client would feel when he came back and saw that he had such a book under his name. He was dumbfounded. What the hell? As an upright otaku, Yuan Liang would definitely not be acclimatized, but it might also open the door to a new world. Ning Shu ate 2 big bowls of thigh meat and burped. Seeing that An Yuyun's face was not very good, he covered his stomach with one hand. "Are you about to give birth?" Ning Shu asked An Yuyun. An Yuyun was sweating profusely. She waved her hand, rushed into the toilet, and locked the toilet door. Ning Shu knocked on the door and asked, "An Yuyun, what's wrong?" "I'm fine. I just have diarrhea." An Yuyun sounded like she was in pain, but she still insisted on not opening the door. Ning Shu released his spiritual force and saw An Yuyun sitting on the ground with her legs open. There were bloodstains on her skirt. A snake as thick as a thumb slithered out of the skirt. It was a black snake. After it came out of the dress, it coiled its body and stuck out its scarlet forked tongue at An Yuyun. "Mommy, you can do it. Little sister is coming out soon. Little sister is too playful and doesn't usually cultivate. Now mommy is in so much pain." An Yuyun gritted her teeth. Her face was extremely pale, and she covered her stomach in pain. An Yuyun's lower body was bleeding profusely. It flowed towards the bathroom's leak, forming a winding trail of blood. The little black snake was a little anxious. It arched into the skirt, bit the little white snake's head, and dragged her out. An Yuyun's face was a little pale. "Mommy!" The black and white snakes shouted at An Yuyun. The little black snake injected some demon aura into An Yuyun's body, making her look a little better. "I'm sorry, Mommy. We are getting bigger and bigger. We broke the eggshell. We should have come out earlier." The little black snake lowered its head and said. An Yuyun's pale lips smiled. "It's okay." Ning Shu stood at the door, not knowing what to say. "An Yuyun, are you okay?" Ning Shu stood at the door and shouted. "You guys hide." An Yuyun stood up with difficulty and let the 2 children hide in the towel. Then she took the shower head and washed the blood on the ground. "Yuan Liang, I want to take a shower. Can you get me a new set of clothes?" An Yuyun's skirt was covered in blood. Ning Shu took the clothes from the balcony, knocked on the door and said, "The clothes are here." An Yuyun opened the door, revealing a gap. She reached out to take the clothes. Ning Shu smelled a strong smell of blood. An Yuyun took the clothes and immediately closed the door. She took a shower after giving birth. She was not worried about catching a cold. Ning Shu said outside the door, "It's a little cold today. Turn the water on hot. Don't take too long. Don't faint." "I know." An Yuyun's voice was a little weak. After a while, the sound of running water could be heard. This time, An Yuyun came out quickly. Her face was very pale. Her stomach was a little flat, but it was still bulging. That was because the eggshell was still in her body. An Yuyun saw that Ning Shu was still standing at the door of the bathroom. When she came out, she closed the door and said, "Thank you for helping me get the clothes." Ning Shu glanced at An Yuyun, turned around, and sat on the sofa in the living room to draw comics. An Yuyun breathed a sigh of relief and went into the kitchen to cook. Ning Shu said lightly, "You don't have to cook. I'll go outside and eat the food you cook every day. It's tasteless." Okay. An Yuyun felt very uncomfortable. It was best not to cook. An Yuyun gathered the clothes on her body. It was summer and her body was covered in cold sweat, but she could feel the cold air drilling into her bones. Ning Shu put down the pen. Seeing An Yuyun's weak appearance, he asked, "Are you sick?" "I seem to be a little uncomfortable." Ning Shu touched his chin. "You can sleep in my room. After all, you are the mother of the Snake King's child. Thank you. And Yu Yun went into the bathroom and secretly took the two little snakes to the room. When Ning Shu ordered takeout in the evening, he ordered chicken soup and some light dishes. Then he brought them into the room. The two little snakes hid under the quilt. Ning Shu put the food on the bedside and said, "Eat something." "Thank you." And Yu Yun sat up and leaned against the bed. Ning Shu looked at the pale and Yu Yun and asked, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" The eggshell had always been in her body, and it was in the fragile womb. Did she not take her body seriously? Anyway, Ning Shu did not know why Yu Yun was with the Snake King. The Snake King's behavior was considered rape. In the end, she was hunted down by a monster because of the fetus. And Yu Yun shook her head. "I'm fine. I just need to rest. There's no need to go to the hospital." Ning Shu wanted to take Yu Yun to the hospital to take the eggshell out of her body. But Yu Yun was wary of him, so he let it go. "Then have a good rest." Ning Shu glanced at the quilt. There were two little snakes moving under the quilt. Chapter 1701. And Yu Yun saw that the quilt was moving and quickly pressed it with her hand. Ning Shu said, "I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital." "Thank you." Ning Shu asked again, "You really don't need to go to the hospital. You should be giving birth soon." "You should go to the hospital in this situation," Ning Shu said. And Yu Yun should be able to understand what he was trying to say since he had already said so much. No one wanted to do anything to her child. Even if it was chopped up to eat snake soup, it would still hurt its teeth. And Yu Yun still insisted on not going to the hospital, so Ning Shu didn't bother to say anything. She had already said that if it was really inflamed or something happened, it was none of her business. Why did the union of a human and a snake give birth to an egg instead of a human? Was it because humans and monsters were in an animal state when they were pregnant? Ning Shu looked at Yu Yun's pale face. "This is the last time I'm asking you. Do you want to go to the hospital?" And Yu Yun shook her head. "I'm fine. If I go out, there will be monsters chasing after me. I don't want to go to the hospital." Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu had originally wanted to send Yu Yun to the hospital to prevent her from having any major health problems. She had seen the pain of childbirth and felt as if she had walked through the gates of hell. Moreover, the eggshell was still in her body. However, Yu Yun didn't accept it. Ning Shu wasn't annoyed. Her body was hers. It was fine if she didn't take care of it. If she wanted to kill someone, these people wouldn't be able to fight back. "Then have a good rest," Ning Shu said lightly and closed the door when he went out. Ning Shu stood at the door and released his mental strength to check the situation in the room. Two snakes, one black and one white, came out of the quilt and sat on it. The little black snake said to Yu Yun, "Mommy, are you feeling well? Do you want to go to the hospital? The eggshell is in your body. It's not good for your health." The little girl quickly said, "Yes, Mommy. You'd better go to the hospital. Isn't that blind eagle taking you to the hospital? When you go to the hospital, my brother and I will escape first and find a place to hide." When Yu Yun heard the little lowly's words, she was stunned. She whispered, "Where do you think you're going?" "I'm going to find Daddy. This blind eagle will definitely attack us." "Mommy, don't worry. One of us will stay behind to protect you," Little Black said to Yu Yun. "Which one of us is going to look for Daddy?" The little black snake looked at his sister. "I told you to cultivate diligently, but you didn't. What are you going to do now?" "Brother, you only know how to talk about me. Why don't we take Mommy with us? Let's leave together." Little Black Snake thought for a moment. "That's good too. If we leave this place, I can also protect Mommy. Let's go find Daddy now." And Yu Yun suddenly felt that she had a backbone. She touched her eldest son and said, "Okay, I'll listen to you." Ning Shu stood outside the house and observed the situation inside with his spiritual power. He couldn't help but rub his eyebrows. What was the situation now? She was bringing the two children to find their father? What if they found it? What would happen after they successfully joined forces? People could be gentle and soft, but they should also have a bottom line. She was raped, gave birth to the children, and then went to find a man. Although Yu Yun was an adult, She was led by the nose by the two children. She didn't feel that there was anything wrong with what the Snake King did. Under the influence of the two children, the seed of affection was planted in Yuyun's heart. The Qing dynasty was already gone. How could this kind of thinking of being faithful to one person be passed down? However, the Snake King was very strong. Even if Yuyun wanted to hide, she couldn't. If she couldn't resist, she had to bear it. Besides, the Snake King's strength was also very strong. He was good-looking and was a good man. Even if she didn't love him now, she would eventually fall in love with him. A man's love was directed to the stomach. A woman's love was directed to the stomach. A woman would always have a special feeling for a man who was as light as her skin. A man could be ruthless, but a woman really couldn't. Moreover, she gave birth to two children. Since they planned to leave, they should leave quickly. However, if they left, the Snake King wouldn't come. She had some debts to settle with the Snake King. Otherwise, she would have to look for the Snake King all over the world. Ning Shu touched his chin and pondered. Well, it was impossible for Yuyun and her third child to leave for the time being. Because Yuyun's body was very weak now. The eggshell in the body was like a placenta that was stuffed in the body and not taken out. Moreover, not only was there eggshell, but there was also the egg white. If these things were left in the body and not cleaned up, would they stink? Especially when the egg white was high in protein. The smell of rotting was called ass. When Yuyun was in confinement, Ning Shu made his own food and made some digestible food for Yuyun. It wasn't easy for a woman to give birth, but it didn't mean that Ning Shu liked Yuyun. When the two snakes saw Ning Shu, they would hide under the quilt. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with them. He already knew that they would come out. Moreover, at night, they would sneak out of the room to look for food. Although these two children had big appetites, they could eat anything raw. Eat my food, live on my bed, and don't give me a good look. When the two brats sneaked out again, Ning Shu pinched a snake's head with one hand. With their heads pinched, the two snakes wrapped around Ning Shu's wrist. Where did these snakes come from? Ning Shu swung the two snakes around, pinching their heads with one hand and pulling their tails with the other. Oh, they're very elastic, Ning Shu said with a smile. The two little snakes were played with by Ning Shu. They gritted their teeth and didn't say a word, just like ordinary snakes. They were afraid that Ning Shu and the others would eat them. Ning Shu swung the snakes around and said thoughtfully, "Well, let's make snake soup." Ning Shu pinched the two snakes and went to the kitchen. There were kitchen knives on the chopping board, scaring the two little snakes. Ning Shu put the little white snake in the rice cooker and covered the pot. The little white snake couldn't open it. Ning Shu looked at the little black snake in his hand. "Let me see where the snakes are. Are there two of them?" The little black snake was dumbfounded, then it began to struggle violently. This eagle was a pervert, raping and molesting young children. "Mommy, save me, save me." The little black snake had no choice but to ask his mommy for help. It wasn't that he didn't want to escape, but he couldn't. He was caught by the eagle and couldn't break free from his control. This eagle had some strength. And Yuyun was sleeping when she heard her son's cry for help. She quickly got up, but her stomach hurt. And Yuyun didn't even have time to put on her shoes and ran barefoot to the kitchen door. When she saw her son being caught by Ning Shu, her face turned ashen. "Let him go, let him go." And Yuyun was like a lioness protecting her cub. She snatched the little black snake from Ning Shu and held it tightly in her arms. "Where's Xiao Xiao? Where's Xiao Xiao?" And Yuyun panicked and looked everywhere for her daughter. "Mommy, I'm here." There was movement from the rice cooker. Chapter 1702. The white snake wriggled in the rice cooker, and the rice cooker moved back and forth. And Yuyun was so scared that her face turned pale. Her daughter was being cooked in the pot. And Yuyun opened the rice cooker, and the white snake stuck its head out and shouted at Yuyun pitifully. And Yuyun hugged the two snakes and looked at Ning Shu warily. She kept retreating barefoot into the living room. Ning Shu covered her nose. And Yuyun's body reeked of blood, mixed with the smell of rotten eggs. The smell of urine mixed with rotten eggs was a little disgusting. He had already told her to go to the hospital to get the foreign body out of her body. He really didn't know what An Yuyun wanted. You want to eat my children? You are indeed the same as those monsters. An Yuyun looked at Ning Shu with disappointment. Ning Shu put his hands behind his back and said casually, I am a monster that kills without blinking. Do you have a problem with that? An Yuyun was only afraid of the monsters that chased after her. But facing her, not only was she not afraid, but she also blamed her. People only dared to hurt people they were familiar with. Was the next sentence going to say that she had betrayed An Yuyun's trust? I always thought that you were different from other monsters. I also believed that you were different from other monsters, but I didn't expect you to want to eat my children. An Yuyun's face was very pale, and she was standing barefoot on the floor. The floor was cold. She really didn't cherish her body. Ning Shu felt that his body couldn't take it just thinking about it. Don't look like you've been deceived. I never asked you to believe me, and I never promised you anything, Ning Shu said as he spread his hands. Mommy, take my sister and leave first. I'll bring up the rear, the black snake said to An Yuyun. His body gradually became bigger. From the thickness of a thumb to the thickness of a man's fist, he changed from a small snake to a half-sized python. His body became bigger and his whole body was black. There was a metallic luster on his body, making him look ferocious and intimidating. The black snake propped up his body and spat out his scarlet forked tongue. The entire room seemed to be narrow. An Yuyun was shocked by her son's transformation. She didn't care and ran straight to the door. But just as he ran to the door, he was blocked by an invisible barrier. An Yuyun and the others were blocked by the water curtain. An Yuyun was knocked to the ground by the rebound force. She groaned and her face became even paler. Blood flowed out from her lower body. Blind Eagle, what did you do? The little white snake angrily shouted at Ning Shu. Are you sure you want to fight with us? My daddy is the Snake King. Have you thought about the consequences? Ning Shu said, I didn't do anything. It seems like you guys started it first. What do you mean we made the first move? The Snake King looked at An Yuyun condescendingly. An Yuyun was a little helpless. Facing this man who suddenly appeared, her feelings were particularly complicated. Especially when the other party's eyes looked at her unscrupulously. Daddy, Mommy suffered a lot to protect us. The little white snake wrapped around the Snake King's hand. It's been hard on you, the Snake King said with a rare gentleness. His long and narrow eyes looked at An Yuyun with some tenderness. He reached out to touch An Yuyun's head. An Yuyun dodged back. After giving birth, she kept sweating. She didn't wash her hair, and there was always a smell on her body. The Snake King's face sank. He pulled An Yuyun in front of him domineeringly. Why are you dodging? You are the mother of my child. Ning Shu, who was ignored, was speechless. Why did you come to my house to feed me dog food? I'll knock over your dog bowl. Daddy, this blind eagle wants to chop me and my brother into snake stew. It's very bad. The little white snake complained to the Snake King. An Yuyun's lips squirmed twice, but she didn't say anything in the end. What do you want to say? The Snake King had been paying attention to An Yuyun. Seeing that she wanted to say something, he asked. An Yuyun looked at Ning Shu standing opposite her and said, Actually, when I was being chased by demons, he took me in. We can let him go. Chapter 1703. An Yuyun pleaded for Ning Shu. After the Snake King came, her body and mind relaxed. She was fine now, so she could let this eagle go. Mommy, do you know how bad this blind eagle is? Not only did he want to make us into snake soup, but he also wanted to look at brother. He said there were 2 snakes. The little white snake didn't know what it was, so it just repeated Ning Shu's words. An Yuyun's face turned red, and she lowered her head. What else? The Snake King stroked Little White on his wrist calmly. Not only that, he also enslaved Mommy and made Mommy do housework when she was pregnant. She was so tired every day. The Snake King stared at Ning Shu unkindly. Ning Shu was fearless. I'm enslaved. Come and bite me. Sister is telling the truth. We stayed in Mommy's stomach and didn't dare to come out. In the end, we grew so big that our eggshells broke. The eggshells are still in Mommy's body. The little black snake also joined in the criticism of Ning Shu. Ning Shu blinked. In the blink of an eye, she became a heinous person. Why didn't anyone say anything about saving her life? The Snake King frowned and looked at Yuyun's stomach. Do you feel uncomfortable? I'm fine. Ning Shu suggested. What's the problem? Let the two children go back into her body and take out the eggshells. When Ning Shu said this, the atmosphere became cold and awkward. And Yuyun wanted to find a hole to hide in. What was this? Let the children go back in and take out the eggshells. The Snake King stared at Ning Shu, his pupils constricting. He gave off a very dangerous feeling. The Snake King stuck out his tongue. His forked tongue was very big. Ning Shu felt a little disgusted. Damn, it was too much to have sex with such a creature. The Snake King's body was probably a tool. Tongue, fingers, and even tail. There were two more. Just the thought of it made his blood boil and his taste buds run wild. The Snake King's lower body turned into a snake, and his upper body was human. Daddy, you can do it. The little white snake cheered the Snake King on. You must make the blind eagle kneel and beg for mercy. When Yuyun saw the Snake King with a human body and a snake tail, she was still a little uncomfortable. Her face turned pale. Mommy, let's go to the side. The little black snake was afraid that the aftermath of the battle would affect Yuyun. Yuyun was just a fragile human being. Even the slightest injury would take her life. The Snake King appeared in front of Ning Shu in a flash. He propped himself up and looked down at Ning Shu. You bullied my wife and child. Pay with your life. The Snake King's aura was very strong, especially when it was directed at Ning Shu. Ning Shu was under a lot of pressure. No wonder the client was instantly killed the moment they met. The difference in strength was too great. Ning Shu's hand transformed into a sharp eagle's claw. The eagle's claw flickered with a cold light. Ning Shu stood up and swung his claws at Snake King. The Snake King moved very quickly and dodged Ning Shu's attack. The two of them trembled together. The entire living room was in a mess. The Snake King's tail swept through the things in the room. The Snake King's tail was very powerful. Ning Shu only had to be swept once before he felt pain in his organs. If he were to be entangled, he would be strangled to death by the powerful force. Furthermore, he was very poisonous. Anything that came into contact with his venom would be corroded. The venom dripped on the ground and the ground sizzled. Ning Shu used a water curtain to cover himself to prevent the venom from splashing on his body. Even if it did, the water curtain could block it. What a powerful Snake King. In the age of chaos, there were very few who could have such powerful strength. The room was in a mess. Looking at the Snake King who looked like a pile of shit in the room, he used his eagle claw to adjust his glasses. The place was narrow and he couldn't fight freely. It seemed like this Snake King was very powerful. In the plot, it was said that he would be killed in one move. He thought that Yuan Liang was too weak, but the Snake King was too strong. To beat a snake, one had to first dig out its roots. Ning Shu moved his claws and looked at the entrenched Snake King. Damn it, where was its weak spot? The Snake King seemed to be a little impatient. He was not interested in this game of attacking and retreating. Long nails grew out of his fingers. Sharp teeth exposed his lips and venom seeped out of his teeth. With a whistle, Ning Shu rushed over. Ning Shu waved his claws. He was sweating and his face was pale. However, his clothes were torn by the Snake King's sharp nails. There were a few deep marks on his chest that were sizzling with white smoke. Ning Shu crashed into the wall and fell to the ground. The feeling of the venom corroding his flesh was very uncomfortable. Ning Shu wasn't in good shape. The Snake King wasn't in good shape either. The blood in his body was forcefully sucked out of his body. Drops of blood rushed out of his body and floated in the air. The whole room was filled with blood. The Snake King's body had lost more than one size. A demon's blood essence was its strength. The Snake King's blood had been sucked out of his body. Ning Shu touched the blood at the corner of his mouth. Although the flesh in his chest was rotting from the venom and smoking, Ning Shu felt that it was worth it when he saw the Snake King in pain. The blood that filled the air frightened Yuyun and the two snakes. Daddy! The two snakes shouted at the Snake King. and Yuyun ran over and asked in panic, "How are you? Are you all right?" Ning Shu pointed his finger and the thumb-sized blood droplets began to gather. They slowly gathered into a football-sized blood droplet. The Snake King stared at the blood droplet and transformed into a gigantic snake head before swallowing the blood droplet. Ning Shu was speechless. She had nearly exhausted half her life to extract the Snake King's blood. The Snake King swallowed his blood, but it was as though he had swallowed a bomb. The blood droplet exploded in his body. The Snake King grunted and spat out a mouthful of blood mist. In his human form, the Snake King was covered in blood as he stared at Ning Shu with a pale face. "You actually have some skill." The venom had corroded Ning Shu's ribs to the point where they could see. Ning Shu endured the pain and said with a smile, "Ouch, it hurts. It seems like I can only rely on your serum to detoxify the poison. There's no other way. I can only draw your blood." The venom in front of him couldn't be alleviated even if he washed it with water. "Enough. Stop fighting." And Yuyun roared. Ning Shu was expressionless as he pointed at his chest. "I can even see the bones. You want me to stop fighting? Are you fucking blind?" The Snake King had swallowed his blood essence, but the power in the blood essence had caused his body to suffer internal injuries. Neither of them had gained any benefits. There was also the feeling of his blood being stripped away. That was pain. The two snakes silently coiled around the Snake King's wrist. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have instigated his father to fight the blind eagle. The blind eagle was so powerful, but he usually looked like a coward. And Yuyun's face was pale and a little pale. Her body couldn't take it anymore as she had been barefooted. Even her lips were a little pale. Chapter 1704. And Yuyun didn't seem to care about her body at all. She stood between Ning Shu and Snake King, preventing the two from fighting again. "Don't fight anymore. Thank you for saving me," and Yuyun said to Ning Shu. She turned to Snake King and said, "He did save me." Ning Shu's heart felt like it was about to explode. Who would want to listen to you? Her flesh and blood had already been corroded. After a while, her bones would also be corroded. Then her internal organs. Was there any way to survive? Ning Shu didn't want to listen to Yuyun's nonsense. Ning Shu had been washing his wounds with water. It was burning hot and painful, as if he had been splashed with sulfuric acid. "Give me the antidote, or none of you can leave today," Ning Shu said coldly. Snake King smiled coldly. "Antidote? Without the antidote, you will definitely die after being poisoned by me." Ning Shu wasn't afraid of such a threat. He adjusted his glasses. "If I die, so be it. Even if I die, I will drag your family of 4 down with me," Ning Shu said indifferently. "Meeting you is really my bad luck of 8 lifetimes. I have already set up a barrier around this area. If you want to leave, it will take time to break it. Let's see who dies first." Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the ground, dripping blood as he looked at his unrecognizable chest. Fortunately, it was a man. If it was a woman, her chest would be gone. And Yuyun saw Ning Shu's tough attitude and couldn't help but look at Snake King. Snake King's expression was a little solemn. He was no longer as relaxed as before. Snake King had some confidence in his strength. After all, he could break into the investigation bureau alone and even steal something. However, he didn't expect to fall in the hands of this ordinary-looking eagle. Although this eagle was poisoned by him and would soon turn into a pool of green water, it still made Snake King's heart feel stifled. Moreover, the people from the investigation bureau were coming. Now was not the time to fight with this eagle. Snake King turned into a snake and rolled Yuyun up. He was ready to leave with his wife and child. Leaving just like that? Wishful thinking. Ning Shu's hand turned into a claw and heavily slashed the Snake King's body. His body was cut open and blood splashed out. The Snake King hissed twice before it was stopped by the water barrier again. The Snake King was annoyed. Why was this person pestering him like a dogskin plaster? He had more important things to do. Ning Shu's heart was in pain. He used his claws to scratch the Snake King's tail. Every time he scratched it, blood would spurt out. And Yu Yun looked at this scene with a pale face and looked at Ning Shu in horror. This person was so scary. The Snake King crashed into the barrier several times, but failed to break it. Instead, it was injured by Ning Shu. The Snake King swept its tail and slapped Ning Shu with great force. Ning Shu hurriedly dodged, and the snake tail smashed into the floor. The entire building shook twice, and cracks appeared on the floor. The battle scene was very intense. Blood splattered everywhere, and the entire living room was covered in blood. The Snake King had to fight with Ning Shu while breaking the barrier. Ning Shu could see that the Snake King was a little anxious and wanted to leave. Ning Shu tapped the water screen with her finger, and the water screen became thicker. At worst, they would die together. Damn it, her heart was in pain. Her ribs were about to turn into crispy pork ribs. The two little snakes couldn't participate in a battle of this level. As for Yu Yun, she was already scared silly by this kind of bloody battle. The Snake King turned back into a human again. His body was covered in blood. He stared at Ning Shu with his long and narrow eyes. His vertical pupils opened and contracted, looking extremely dangerous. No one spoke, and the atmosphere was very solemn. Ning Shu's heart was even more bloody. The poison was still seeping into Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu couldn't do anything even if he ate the antidote. Ning Shu made up his mind and took a knife to cut off the rotten flesh in front of him to prevent the poison from seeping into his internal organs. And Yu Yun watched Ning Shu cut his own flesh with a knife. Black blood flowed out and dripped on the ground. It looked very horrifying. And Yu Yun's eyelids rolled and she fainted. Her body was weak and she was barefoot. She had watched the fierce battle for so long, and now she saw Ning Shu cutting his own flesh. She was so excited that she fainted. The Snake King hugged Yu Yun and looked at Ning Shu. "Are you really not going to let us go today?" Ning Shu said, "I said that as long as you give me the antidote, I will let you go. Otherwise, I don't want to leave today." Anyway, today's grudge was set. Snakes were evil and cunning. They were not broad-minded people. Ning Shu felt that the Snake King wouldn't let him go. Moreover, the Snake King was in a hurry to leave. Although he didn't know why, he wanted to delay it for as long as possible. Cutting his flesh was really painful. Ning Shu was in so much pain that he cried out in pain. The room was filled with Ning Shu's elegant howls. The white snake wanted to mock Ning Shu, but she couldn't open her mouth. No matter how stupid she was, she should know that this blind eagle was not weak. Otherwise, they wouldn't be trapped here and unable to leave. The white snake bared her teeth. "If you are a master, just say it. You usually act like a weakling." The Snake King stared at Ning Shu. If he could do it to himself, who couldn't he do it to? This kind of person was cruel and merciless. The Snake King narrowed her long eyes and looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at his chest. Finally, there was fresh blood flowing out. She really peeled off a layer of skin. No, she peeled off several layers of skin. It was really fucking painful. Ning Shu's face was pale. He leaned against the wall and felt that he didn't have long to live. Ning Shu adjusted his glasses. Seeing the Snake King staring at him, he smiled at him. "Why are you looking at me like that? Anyway, I don't need the antidote. Let's just wait until the people who are looking for you come." The Snake King hugged Yu Yun. Two small snakes, one black and one white, were coiled around each of her shoulders. They were sticking out their tongues. "I admit that someone is chasing me. But when the person comes, you won't have a good time," the Snake King suddenly said. Ning Shu's eyes turned. "It's the people from the Investigation Bureau. Even if it's the Investigation Bureau, I didn't do anything evil. The Investigation Bureau can't do anything to me." "You're wrong. The Investigation Bureau's role is to kill powerful monsters. You admit that you are not weak. Soon, you will be included in the Investigation Bureau's list of must-kill monsters." The Snake King didn't look like he was lying. Ning Shu said calmly, "So what? It's better for us to fight to the death and let the Investigation Bureau take advantage of us. Do you know how much humans, especially those who stand at the top of power, want to live forever? Monsters like us are the humans' test subjects. They want to find out the secret of how we can live for hundreds of years, the Snake King Ningshu said. This was a little interesting. There must be a purpose for the Investigation Bureau, a secret organization. Ningshu was expressionless. So, it's meaningless for us to fight to the death. Chapter 1705. Ningshu truly experienced the feeling of having the poison removed from his bones. Leaning against the wall, he looked half dead. However, Snake King did not dare to be careless, especially since the enchantment could not be broken at all. He still had to rely on this person. Even though he looked like he was about to die, it might just be an act to confuse others. Monsters were very cunning animals, especially those that had lived for hundreds of years. Their wisdom could be honed with time. Therefore, Snake King took the initiative to talk about the investigation department that was tracking him. Ningshu was skeptical about the investigation department. In this world where humans and monsters coexisted, the existence of the investigation department was definitely not so open. Otherwise, it would not have been secretly established. The investigation department did not have much of a presence in the eyes of humans. Many people did not even know that there was such an office. However, among the monsters, it was like thunder. And Yuyun was in Snake King's arms. She was unconscious and her face was a little pale. Snake King was a little anxious. If they did not leave, the investigation department would arrive. We are monsters after all. We fought to the death. Once the investigation department arrived, the two of us would be wiped out by them. Snake King frowned and said. Ningshu's face was pale and he smiled indifferently. I'm alone. It's my gain to lose your family of 4. Snake King's eyebrows were knitted together. Do you really want to die with me? What good will it do you? You'll be locked up in the investigation department. It's better to die. Ningshu stood up with the help of the wall. Who doesn't love their lives? I'm just unhappy. If I were weaker, I'm afraid I would have been killed by you. Now that I can trap you, you're talking terms with me. Snake King, you're really embarrassed. Ignoring the fact that he had saved her life, she attacked without distinguishing right from wrong. Fine, you're awesome, okay? However, there's always a higher mountain. If this person was killed, it would be fine. However, if he met a strong one, he would be kicking an iron plate. Killing someone in one move. That was awesome. The strong were respected and the weak were eliminated. According to this logic, it would be fine even if she wanted the lives of an Yuyun and the 2 little snakes. Who asked them to be weak? Yuan Liang deserved to die. However, Yuan Liang seemed to feel that he was wronged. In the end, it was a matter of strength. Wasn't the Snake King trying to talk terms with her? There must be something on Snake King that the FBI wanted. Ningshu released his spiritual force and scanned the Snake King's body for something. The Snake King's vertical pupils stared intently at Ningshu. He felt as if something had swept past him. Ningshu didn't find anything special on Snake King's body. Could he have guessed wrongly? Ningshu and Snake King faced each other. Ningshu absent-mindedly mobilized the tiny bit of spiritual energy in his dantian to heal himself. The wound hurt too much. The Snake King was really lame. He couldn't even cure his own poison. Anyway, he was not allowed to leave just like that. He had crippled her and turned her home into this state. It was as if he had just left. Nothing good will come out of saving your wife and child. The Snake King stared at Ningshu maliciously. His lower body and upper body transformed into a snake and floated in the air, looking at Ningshu. I told you nicely. If you don't listen, then don't blame me for being impolite. The Snake King opened his mouth and spat out a round bead. This bead looked like a large pearl, but it also looked like it was made of polished jade. As soon as this bead came out, the entire space in the room became a little distorted. The water curtain barrier that Ningshu had set up also became turbulent. Ningshu was shocked. What was this thing? It was so powerful. The bead kept spinning in the air. It looked like the barrier was about to break. Finally, with a bang, the water curtain turned into droplets of water and dripped down like rain. Her barrier was broken. Ningshu pointed his finger. The water that fell to the ground turned into raindrops again and flew up to the roof. Like a tape, They gathered together and set up the water curtain barrier again. There was nothing in this world that didn't have much except water. It could be recycled. You broke the barrier, so I set it up again. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to master the law of water. Thank you for your whole family. The Snake King's face was a little ugly. Finally, he couldn't help but wonder, I say, is there something wrong with your brain? I tried so hard to persuade you, but it was all in vain. The Snake King was a little surprised that Ning Shu could set up a barrier with just a raise of his hand. Such a monster was not simple in the demon realm. The Snake King regretted making a move so early. Maybe it was a big monster who was tired of staying in the demon realm and came to live in the human world. Ning Shu said indifferently, people should strive to live a good life. You came to my house to fight and kill. You didn't even have a chance to argue. Where am I supposed to put my face? I don't have any objections if you want to show off, but you can't just kill me like this. The most annoying thing was this kind of pretentious person, especially one who used other people's lives to show off. If he really did something wrong and really hurt someone, it would be fine. But he had to kill someone for no reason. So awesome. Go fuck yourself. The bead vibrated slightly, and the space where the bead was slightly distorted. Ning Shu's water curtain barrier was broken by the bead again, and the rain fell. Ning Shu smiled slightly and pointed his finger. The water droplets that fell to the ground gathered again, forming a water curtain. Well, it seemed that he was getting more and more skilled. The Snake King's face was very ugly. He stared at Ning Shu with his vertical pupils and threatened, "Do you really want to go against me? Don't forget that I am the Snake King. All the snakes in the world listen to my orders." Ning Shu's fingers turned into claws, and he said with a smile, "I am an expert at catching snakes. No matter what, I am still an eagle." The Snake King couldn't help but curse for being retarded. It was really difficult to deal with such a stubborn person, especially one who was not weak. He was unmoved by force or persuasion. Ning Shu stared at the slightly trembling bead. What was this? Maybe it was a treasure. Ning Shu stretched out her hand, wanting to take the bead away, especially since the bead was emitting a strong demonic aura. The Snake King saw that Ning Shu was looking at the demonic beast, and he immediately opened his mouth and swallowed the demonic beast. Ning Shu curled his lips. Snake King? His table manners were really ugly. Without the demonic beast's help, it was impossible for the Snake King to break the barrier. Even if he tried his best to break the barrier, it would be repaired. It was maddening. Ning Shu moved his eagle claws. Let me tear open your body and take out the bead to see what it is. The Snake King waved his tail, and Ning Shu attacked. Ning Shu pointed his finger, and a water curtain wrapped around the Snake King. The Snake King laughed sinisterly. Blind Eagle, don't think that I am really afraid of you. With that, a strong demonic aura exploded from the Snake King's body. His eyes were scarlet, and the demonic wind around him was like a hurricane. As for Ning Shu's water screen, it was like a bubble that was popped. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes. The Snake King still had a backup plan. Chapter 1706. Could it be that the Snake King had no way to control this powerful demonic aura? If this demonic aura continued to spread, the house would probably be destroyed by the demonic aura hurricane. The Snake King's eyes were scarlet, and his face was covered with a layer of scales. He spat out his scarlet forked tongue. The Snake King stared at Ning Shu and growled coldly, "You forced me to do this." Ning Shu felt that the water curtain was shaking. It was obvious that the enchantment was about to break. Damn, this was the power of the heavens chosen, getting stronger and stronger. Could it be because of the bead? Ning Shu's face was cold. The water pipe in the kitchen burst, and the tap water splashed out. Ning Shu pointed his finger, and the water surged into the enchantment on the roof, increasing the strength and thickness of the enchantment. In just a short while, the Snake King's face was covered with snake scales, revealing a pair of vertical pupils. Ning Shu couldn't bear to look at it. His trypophobia was acting up. Do you really want to die with me? Isn't it just a misunderstanding? Do you have to do this? The Snake King spat out his scarlet tongue and hissed in a low voice. Ning Shu pointed at his chest with his eagle claw. It was a bloody mess. This is a misunderstanding. If it wasn't for my strength, I would have been killed by you. I don't even have my life now, and you're telling me it's a misunderstanding? And your 2 children, they're not good seeds either. Sooner or later, they'll be cooked into snake soup. They're just pretentious foxes. If you want to be pretentious, you have to have the strength to be pretentious. If you have the strength to be pretentious, that's a high realm that mortals can't understand. But what ability do these 2 little snakes have? She didn't know why they could be so arrogant in front of her and her client, full of a sense of superiority. Could it be that the words "spare tire" were written on their faces? I originally wanted to spare your life, but now that you don't know what's good for you, you can go to hell. The Snake King's eyes turned red, and his pupils couldn't be seen. Ning Shu felt that the Snake King was very anxious and wanted to leave. That was why he was so eager to kick him away. Perhaps this was not the power of the Snake King, but the effect of the pearl that was emitting a powerful demonic aura. The Snake King was going all out. Ning Shu did not dare be careless. He transformed into an eagle and used his sharp talons to fight the Snake King. The surrounding glass shattered into pieces, and even the door was smashed into smithereens. The eagle that Ning Shu had transformed into had no feathers on its chest. It had become a hairless eagle. The Snake King also had restrictions, which were in Yuyun and the 2 children. The 2 small snakes were nestled in the Snake King's arms. Snake King still had to carry the unconscious in Yuyun with one hand. And Yuyun's hair was messed up by the demonic aura, and her face turned blue. Moreover, the lochia that was similar to menstruation had wet his pants. In addition to the stench of snakes and blood, there was also a foul stench coming from Yuyun's body. The smell of rotten eggs. In the plot, Yuyun gave birth to 2 complete snake eggs. It was a normal delivery. That was because Yuan Liang was good to her. And Yuyun gave birth without any worries. However, Ning Shu's attitude towards Yuyun was unclear. In addition, the 2 children did not have a good impression of Ning Shu. They felt that Ning Shu was going to eat them. They had been in the stomach and refused to come out. Now the eggshell was in the body, inflamed and smelly. Ning Shu gritted his teeth. Every time he grabbed the Snake King, it was like grabbing a soldering iron. Not only was it hard, but it was also very hot. Damn, the Snake King was so powerful. It was going to ascend to heaven. The Snake King was not having a good time either. The demonic aura was rampaging in his body. He had no way to control the huge demonic aura. He had to take care of several demonic auras, control the rampaging power in his body, and protect his children and women. Unfortunately, there was a brainless eagle chasing after him. If he was not forced into a corner, he would not have used the demonic aura. Moreover, such a strong demonic aura quickly attracted the people from the investigation bureau. Damn, retard. The Snake King felt that there was something wrong with the eagle's brain. What was the point of fighting like this? It was just a small misunderstanding. If it messed up his plans, he would pull out the eagle's feathers one by one. He would pull out his sharp claws one by one. The Snake King went berserk and attacked Ning Shu even more viciously. Furthermore, more and more small snakes began to gather around. They were summoned by the Snake King. There were all kinds of snakes of different sizes and colors. They all crawled towards Ning Shu's building. Some of the snakes were even entwined together as though they were mating. They rolled their bodies, revealing their white bellies. Many snakes were entwined together. Fortunately, it was night. If it was daytime, he would have been scared to death. The densely packed snakes were sticking out their tongues as they entwined together. Just the thought of it gave him goosebumps. Some climbed up the vines on the walls or the sewer tanks. They stuck out their tongues and swam towards Ning Shu. They were densely packed. "Aren't you good at catching snakes?" "You can catch them now," the Snake King said with a sneer. Ning Shu was speechless. He was a little scared. The main reason was that snakes were very uncomfortable. When there were so many of them, Ning Shu's hair stood on end uncontrollably. It was not that he couldn't defeat them, but the place was cold. The unconscious in Yuyun woke up. The first thing she saw was the Snake King, whose face was covered in snake scales. His eyes were red and his forked scarlet tongue was sticking out from time to time. Being held in the arms of such a monster, and Yuyun was so scared that she screamed. "It's me," the Snake King said. "My demonic power was out of control." And Yuyun was still in shock. When she saw the house full of small snakes, she was so scared that she almost screamed. And Yuyun shivered. Her face was pale and blue. She looked like a magnolia flower that had been ravaged by a storm. And Yuyun hugged the Snake King's neck. She was at a loss and looked pitiful. The demonic wind blew her hair into a mess, hitting her and the Snake King's face from time to time. "What a naughty hair! Open the barrier and I'll let these snakes leave," the Snake King said to Ningshu. As time passed, more and more snakes crawled in. The ground was covered with a thick layer of snakes. The floor could no longer be seen. "You are on top of me and I am wrapped around you." The house was filled with the hissing sounds of snakes. Ningshu hammered his head. He was so focused on strengthening the water curtain on the roof that he didn't notice the cracks in the water curtain under his feet. Looking at the house full of snakes, Ningshu frowned. He would be exhausted if he had to catch them one by one. Chapter 1707. What was the point of calling over these snakes without intelligence? It was pure and disgusting. Ningshu pointed her finger and water splashed out from the kitchen pipe. It gathered in front of Ningshu like a water dragon. Ningshu stood in the air and pointed at the water droplets in front of her. The water droplets turned into countless small water droplets. Then, these water droplets turned into countless sharp and tiny ice needles. The ice needles flew towards the snakes in the room. The ice needles pierced into the snakes' bodies and nailed them to the floor. Ningshu drew out the water in the kitchen and drowned the snakes. Then, she drew out the temperature and made the water colder and colder. Finally, it condensed into ice. The snakes were frozen motionless. Snakes were hibernating animals. At such a low temperature, the snakes would reduce their physiological needs. At the same time, Ningshu repaired the water curtain in the room and turned the entire water curtain into an enclosed space. This way, the snakes outside could not enter. The Snake King's 2 children could not withstand such a low temperature. They yawned and shouted at the Snake King, "Daddy, it's so cold." And Yuyun's teeth were chattering from the cold. Her upper teeth touched her lower teeth and her lips were purple from the cold. The Snake King hurriedly injected some demonic power into Yuyun's body to resist the cold. The cold environment was very disadvantageous for snakes. The Snake King looked at Ningshu. What kind of method is this? Ningshu was very tired. If she could not use her principles, she would not use the power of the law. If she could not use the law, she would not use the law. Furthermore, when the client came back, she could not use the law. However, the Snake King's power was getting stronger and stronger. She could not withstand it. He didn't know what that bead was, but the client had never seen it before. Ningshu felt that it was not the Snake King. The Snake King did not control the bead's power. If she let the Snake King go this time, it would be more difficult to deal with the Snake King when he controlled the bead's power. Now that the hatred had been formed, she had angered the Snake King. When the Snake King became stronger, he would definitely come back to kill her. Therefore, Ningshu decided to delay Snake King no matter what until the people from the Investigation Bureau arrived. It was very likely that the bead did not belong to the Snake King at all. The reason why Snake King was being hunted down was probably because he had stolen it from the Bureau of Investigation. This was the plot that Ningshu had concluded after traversing countless planes. It was very likely that the Snake King wanted to steal something, but he was afraid that he would not be able to come back, so he decided to find someone to reproduce his offspring. No matter what, he had to leave a seed. Then he met Yuyun. Therefore, the Snake King had come looking for him. He had taken his wife and child away and killed the person who had entrusted him. But now, because it was Ningshu, he was stuck here. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. Therefore, Ningshu had to stall for time until the people chasing after Snake King arrived. Was there really nothing wrong with the people from the Investigation Bureau? Why weren't they here yet? Ning Shu carefully stood on the thin ice. The ground was a little slippery, so he couldn't fall. Ning Shu leaned against the wall and confronted Snake King. Snake King silently looked at Ning Shu, who was slipping under his feet. What do I have to do to make you compromise? Ning Shu felt helpless against Snake King, and Snake King felt the same way about Ning Shu. He felt that no matter what he did, the other party could take it. Fuck stupid. Snake King seriously suspected that this eagle had lived with humans for too long and his brain had degenerated. Otherwise, he couldn't figure out why he was so stubborn. Other than this explanation, Snake King really couldn't find any other reason to explain this guy's stupid behavior. Since it was a misunderstanding, couldn't he just explain it? Ning Shu said with a smile, I'm quite interested in the bead in your body. Why don't you spit it out and we can study it together? Snake King's face darkened. He didn't say anything and didn't give in. Ning Shu didn't care. She wasn't in a hurry to run anyway. Snake King's time was running out and he was anxious. Snake King laughed coldly. When the people from the investigation bureau arrive, you won't be able to get away with it. A big monster like you is also a monster that the investigation bureau focuses on monitoring. You might even be sent to the research table if you can escape from the investigation bureau. Ning Shu asked, Is the investigation bureau a monster slaughterhouse? Do humans have to eat monster meat? Snake King looked at Ning Shu. You're right. Some monsters that commit crimes are directly slaughtered and eaten. Therefore, monsters that are targeted by the investigation bureau can't escape death. Ning Shu's eyes turned, and he smacked his lips. He calmly said, Oh. Ning Shu wiped his face in front of him. A block of ice appeared in front of him. It was square and covered his head and face. This way, they won't be able to see who I am. Snake King almost vomited blood. Fuck stupid. What exactly do you want? What do you want? Snake King asked Ning Shu with a sullen face. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. At this time, he had to discuss and negotiate with someone. Wasn't he very arrogant and wanted to kill someone in an instant? This was strength. Only with strength would one have the right to speak. Only then would one have the opportunity to speak. Ning Shu poked 2 holes in the ice with his fingers and looked at Snake King through the small holes. Actually, I don't have any requests. I just want you to apologize to me. Of course, I also want to spank your 2 children. 2 big slaps on their faces will do too. I'm a relatively kind person. If it were other monsters, they would have eaten these 2 long ago. They're very annoying all day long. Snake King's pupils shrank. The 2 little snakes in Snake King's arms pitifully called out for their daddy. Don't go too far, Snake King said in a low voice. His eyes were scarlet. If you really want to die together, then let's see who's better and who's lucky enough to survive in the end. I broke into the investigation bureau alone and could still escape unscathed. Do you really think that's all I have? I just don't want to make things worse. Snake King's attitude was within Ning Shu's expectations. If Snake King really compromised, then it wouldn't be cool and arrogant. And usually, it could even kill a villain like her. Ning Shu replied with an expressionless "oh." Snake King was a little agitated by Ning Shu's indifferent attitude. He opened his mouth and spat out a thick poisonous fog. If Ning Shu wanted to avoid the poisonous fog, he could only open the barrier and run out. This poisonous fog was very powerful. Anything that came into contact with the poison would be corroded. Damn, it's still coming. Ning Shu felt his heart hurt even more. If the poisonous fog touched his body, it would be useless even if he cut off all the flesh in his body. After fighting with Snake King for so long, Ning Shu had never really gained the upper hand. Ning Shu pointed his finger and a water wall appeared in front of him to protect him. However, when the poisonous fog came into contact with the water wall, it began to slowly corrode the water wall. Ning Shu quickly thickened the water wall to prevent the poisonous fog from coming into contact with him. Chapter 1708. Ning Shu pointed at an Yuyun in Snake King's arms and said loudly, "Oh my God, your woman seems to have been poisoned." And Yuyun was just a fragile human being. How could she withstand Snake King's poison? Her face was colorful and swollen. Snake King was shocked. He had no choice but to open his mouth wide and suck back the poisonous fog. He could even suck it back. This skill was really useless. The temporary crisis was over. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. He still didn't dare to remove the water wall. Snake King was a very insidious person. Through the water wall, Ning Shu saw Snake King feed In Yuyun a medicine. It should be the antidote. Not long after she ate it, the color on In Yuyun's face faded a little. He said there was an antidote, but he said there was no antidote. Ning Shu just wanted to roll his eyes. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. It was bloody. First, it was eroded by the poison. Then, Ning Shu cut his own flesh. No compromise. No compromise. No matter what, he had to stop Snake King. And Yuyun was so uncomfortable that she cried. She had inhaled the poisonous fog. She was still in confinement, and the temperature in the room was very low. And Yuyun couldn't bear it. She had hurt the roots of her body. Especially since she had just given birth and the eggshell was still in her body. Snake King frowned. He hugged In Yuyun and said, "Don't cry. It's okay." In Snake King's heart, this woman was helping him carry on his children. It could only be said that she was a little special in his heart. He still needed some time to fall in love with her. After all, this was only the second time they had met. So when he spat out the poisonous fog, he didn't consider In Yuyun. Snake King took a deep breath and looked at Ning Shu on the other side of the water wall. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't open his mouth. The monster in front of him was unmoved by force or persuasion. Ning Shu's ears twitched. He said with a smile, "It seems that someone is here. They should be from the Investigation Bureau." Snake King's eyes turned scarlet. He stared at Ning Shu. "You have guts." "Of course I have guts." Soon, several people stood at the door. There were people in Taoist costumes and men in military uniforms. There were men and women. There were also several monsters. Could it be that there were demons working for the Investigation Bureau? Several people were blocked outside by Ning Shu's enchantment. Snake King looked at Ning Shu maliciously. "Do you think the FBI will let you go?" Ning Shu pointed his finger, and a hole appeared in the water curtain at the entrance. The people outside were planning to use all kinds of martial arts to break the enchantment. But he didn't expect the barrier to open first. A capable woman in a leather jacket and pants entered the house first. The leather pants stretched her long legs straight and slender. It was indescribably sexy and seductive. Especially as she walked, the mysterious triangular region became even more alluring. Looking at the messy room, his gaze paused on Snake King and he said, "Snake King." When Snake King saw this woman, his expression did not look very good. The woman saw In Yuyun in Snake King's arms. "Are you holding a human hostage? That's against the rules of the Investigation Bureau. You have to come back with us." Snake King sneered, hugged In Yuyun, and kissed her. They were entangled. Then he released In Yuyun's lips and said to the woman, "Have you ever seen someone treat a hostage like this?" And Yuyun's pale face flushed red when Snake King suddenly kissed her. Her eyes were watery and covered with a layer of mist. She looked lost and helpless, which made her look a little cute. The woman turned around and looked at Ning Shu with a frosty expression. Ning Shu's head was covered by a cube of ice. She couldn't see what Ning Shu looked like. "What kind of monster are you?" The woman scanned the situation in the room and the frozen snake. There was a slight flicker in her eyes. Ning Shu said in a low voice, "I'm just a nobody." "What's your name?" the woman said as she took out her phone. She seemed to want to check Ning Shu's information. "Why are you asking for my name?" Ning Shu asked. "To be able to trap Snake King, who escaped from the Investigation Bureau, your strength is not to be underestimated. We humans have to have records of monsters like you. Tell me, what's your name and what kind of monster are you?" Before Ning Shu could speak, the white snake poked its head out of Snake King's arms and said loudly, "His name is Yuan Liang. His true form is a blind eagle." "Yuan Liang eagle?" The woman tapped on the phone screen. Ning Shu turned his head to look at the white snake. It immediately shrank into Snake King's clothes. "Show your face. We want to take a photo," the woman said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu frowned tightly and said, "My face has been corroded by the poisonous fog. You can't take a photo of me even if you want to." Snake King sneered and said, "I told you before. As long as the Investigation Bureau sees a powerful monster, they will think of a way to send it to the operating table or the dining table." "Vile creature, hand over what you stole," the old Taoist shouted at Snake King. Snake King stuck out its scarlet tongue and said sinisterly, "Once it's in my hands, it's mine." The old Taoist led a few tall and strong demons to surround the Snake King. Snake King coldly looked at the demons. "As a demon, you are actually lowly to be a human's lackey. If I become the demon king that commands thousands of demons, the first demons I will kill will be demons like you." The demons remained silent. The old Taoist was quite capable. With a flick of his horsetail whisk, he formed a seal with his fingers and cooperated with the demons to fight Snake King. Ning Shu watched silently from the side. There was also a woman in a leather jacket standing beside her, sizing her up. "You didn't do anything illegal, right?" the woman asked Ning Shu coldly. Ning Shu said, "I didn't do anything against the law. I don't believe that you can't find out my information. I'm just an ordinary monster." The woman curled her lips. "I'm the director of the Investigation Bureau." Ning Shu acknowledged, "Hello, director." The woman walked towards Ning Shu and leaned close to Ning Shu's ear. "We might be the same kind." Ning Shu blinked. "You're a demon too?" The woman curled her lips into a smile. She actually had a hint of beauty. Playing dumb. Ning Shu did not say anything. If this woman was really a mission enforcer, but he did not know whether she was a friend or foe, Ning Shu did not respond. He would not expose his identity either. If it was in the past, Ning Shu might have been happy to meet a colleague in the same world. But now, she was the embodiment of the law. She went from an unknown mission enforcer that no one paid attention to the embodiment of the law of water. This kind of attention also had a hint of malice. Ning Shu did not know whether this woman was a friend or foe, so he had to be careful. Even if she saw something from the traces of battle in the house, Ning Shu would not admit it before he knew if she was a friend or foe. Ning Shu was indifferent. The woman was not angry either. She stood side by side with Ning Shu and watched the battle. It seemed like she did not intend to interfere. Chapter 1709. Ning Shu was more vigilant than happy about the mission enforcer who had suddenly appeared. Even though her current target was Snake King, she seemed to be on the same side. However, Ning Shu did not have a good feeling about this woman. Her attitude was very arrogant as she looked down at Ning Shu. Ning Shu thought to himself that she must be a powerful mission enforcer. Snake King seemed a little tired under the attacks of the few demons and the old Taoist priest. Coupled with the 3 burdens, Snake King's situation was a little bad. However, if Snake King was so easy to deal with, he would not be the main character. Anyone who was poisoned by him would be corroded by the poison. Snake King had no choice but to borrow the power of the demon. A strong demon aura hurricane rose from his body, preventing people from approaching him. However, Snake King was a little overwhelmed by the demon's power. "Do you know what Snake King stole from the investigation department?" asked the female director, Ning Shu. Ning Shu shook his head. "I'm not a god. How would I know? The person who entrusted him died early. He was killed by Snake King as soon as he met him. Who knew how Snake King and Inyun showed off their love and tortured the single dogs? It's that demon." The female director glanced at Ning Shu, seemingly surprised that Ning Shu was so stupid. Demons are the symbol of the Demon King. The Demon King commands all the demons in the demon world. The demons are so chaotic now and have even integrated into the human world. There seems to be signs of harmony with humans because the demons do not have a Demon King. They are divided and fight for themselves. No one is willing to submit to anyone. If a Demon King is born, the situation will be different. If Snake King controls the demon and uses it for himself, he will be the new Demon King. He will have the power and authority to command all the demons. He will slaughter humans wantonly. The current peaceful situation will be broken. Humans will also know of the existence of demons. People will panic and the entire world will be in chaos. The last demon king was killed by humans after gathering a lot of power and sacrificing a lot. They took the demon away, but the demon was stolen by Snake King. Oh! Ning Shu acted as if he suddenly understood. So we have to get the demon back today no matter what. The female director nodded. Ning Shu coughed and pointed at An Yuyun, who was in the Demon King's arms. Isn't there another person in the human battlefront? An Yuyun is a kind person. She will definitely persuade the Snake King not to slaughter the humans. The female director was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but roll her eyes. That's her. When she arrived at the demon realm, the Snake King gave her a palace to live in and she enjoyed the supreme favor. She fought with a group of female monsters and enjoyed the favor of the monsters. She doesn't know anything about the human world. Dogs are more reliable than her. Ning Shu was speechless. Thinking about it, An Yuyun was a person who didn't have her own opinions. As long as he had a little bit of happiness, he didn't need to know about the storm outside. Moreover, her man could shelter her from any storm. Contentment brings happiness. My happiness is just a little bit of happiness, Ning Shu said casually. The female director said coldly, therefore, placing the hope of humanity on this woman is simply courting death. The female director looked at Ning Shu. Don't tell me you don't know about the demon realm. If the Snake King really brings this woman to the demon realm, then he will really leave humanity and can't be considered a human. Ning Shu was indifferent. He knew a little about the demon realm. It was actually an alternate dimension. In this plane, a dimension was opened. This space seemed to be a space created by the gathering of some powerful demons. When the living space of the monsters was compressed, the demon realm could be said to be the last place for monsters. There were some powerful demons living there. Ning Shu stared at the Snake King whose face was covered in snake scales. It seemed that the Snake King was still an ambitious monster. He was unwilling to be the Snake King. Not only did he want to rule over the snakes, but he also wanted to rule over the demons. Perhaps the Snake King in the plot would succeed. After all, the person who entrusted the mission in the plot couldn't even last a round with the Snake King. The Snake King brought along his wife and child. The Snake King is a lawless, wild monster that is difficult to tame. If he becomes the Demon King, the world will fall into great turmoil, the female director said. Ning Shu thought for a moment and asked, do you think the Snake King will kill humans wantonly? That's for sure. Ning Shu said indifferently, actually, killing a little is nothing. After all, humans are multiplying too quickly. There are too many of them. The plane can't take countless resources. There's a reason why a person like the Snake King can become the protagonist. After a massacre, the number of humans would definitely decrease sharply. This was from the perspective of the plane's self-healing. Why were the monsters forced to live with humans and be forced to live like humans? Because there was no room for survival. Humans had occupied too many resources and places. But Ning Shu didn't want these people to be killed by him. The development of the plane had its own rules. The female director glanced at Ning Shu. That's true, but innocent humans shouldn't be involved in such a battle. Ning Shu said indifferently, then let the people who benefit, such as the army, enjoy the supreme right to fight. Once the war starts, it will be an uncontrollable turmoil, the female director said. Ning Shu just chuckled and didn't say anything. Every plane had its own rules of self-development. The change of dynasties was also the process of the plane's self-healing. The fall of a dynasty, from the beginning of a prosperous era to the end of a muddle-headed era, all kinds of chaos, injustice in the world, chaos in the world, and hunger for thousands of miles, produced resentment. At this time, a new dynasty would be born in the blood, eliminating the resentment of the past, and the cycle would continue. Ning Shu felt that such a war was the process of the plane's self-healing. Sacrifice a portion to save a portion. As for whether they could survive, it was up to fate. The female director narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Ning Shu. You think you're a monster just because you're doing a mission for a monster? What are you talking about? I've done everything. I'm just stating facts. Ning Shu spread his hands. Putting aside this love story, he kept adding halos to the Snake King, from the Snake King to the King of Monsters. Wasn't he giving the Snake King strength and guiding his own fate? For in Yuyun, she had conquered a man who conquered the world. Moreover, this man only loved her and gave her unparalleled love. This was a woman's achievement. A smart woman smiled sweetly and let the man fight for the woman. She drove and controlled the man. If there was no Snake King, someone else would take on such a mission. Ning Shu rolled his eyes and thought. It seemed that many people and monsters would be sacrificed in the future. The client's wish was to survive and teach the Snake King a lesson. Chapter 1710. His wish had basically been fulfilled. However, if Snake King was not dealt with, the client's life would never be guaranteed. As for the demon, Ning Shu did not want to care about it. However, he could not let it fall into the hands of Snake King. If the demon fell into the hands of any small demon, it could give birth to a powerful demon that would shoulder the fate of the demon. Speaking of which, the demon was like a tool to achieve self-healing in the plane. The people who were born in this plane were more like chess pieces. Fate was really a very difficult thing to figure out. The law of fate was even more mysterious. The female director Ning Shu said, "Do you want to work in the investigation bureau?" Many demons work in the investigation bureau. Ning Shu looked at the fighting demons, thought for a moment and said, "I think I prefer drawing comics. I'm not up to the job of the investigation bureau." The female director coldly scanned the situation in the room. "I think you can do it." "I can't." Ning Shu looked at Snake King who was surrounded. It would be best if Snake King died. It would save her the trouble of taking action. However, Snake King had a powerful weapon, which was the demon. If Snake King ruthlessly activated the demon's power, it would be difficult for the people present to resist. Now Snake King had many concerns. He did not dare to use his full strength because of his women and children. Also, there was a retarded eagle guarding him. After he destroyed a wave, the retarded eagle came again and fought him in turns. When a person was exhausted, it was impossible to fight without stopping. Moreover, there was a barrier. Everyone was defeated and they had to break the barrier before they could leave. Snake King's heart was in a mess. In the end, it was all this retarded eagle's fault. If it was not trapped here, who knew where it would be now? It would be easy and carefree. The family was happy and harmonious. It could not be better. The more Snake King thought about it, the more regretful he felt. If he had known, he would not have taken action so early. Snake King, who was entangled by the demon and the Taoist priest, released a powerful move. A violent demon aura hurricane blew the demon and the old Taoist priest away. Everyone slammed heavily into the wall, leaving a crack in the wall. The old Taoist and the demon spat out blood and struggled on the ground for a long time, unable to get up. If not for Ning Shu's water curtain enchantment, people would have been alarmed by such a big commotion. Everyone should give her a thank you gift. Snake King panted violently and looked at Ning Shu with his scarlet eyes. "Are you acting like this because you like her?" Ning Shu asked as Snake King hugged An Yuyun who was in his arms. "Ning Shu? You're thinking too much. She's trying to kill you because she wants to kill you. It has nothing to do with An Yuyun." Hearing Snake King's words, An Yuyun's pale face was filled with humiliation. An Yuyun said with some pain, "What do you mean? Am I that kind of person?" Ning Shu did not say anything as he looked at Snake King. Snake King said, "Even if you did it for, what's your name?" Snake King lowered his head and asked An Yuyun. Until now, he still did not know this woman's name. An Yuyun bit her pale lips and said with difficulty, "An Yuyun." She didn't even know her name. Snake King probably found a random woman to hang out with. But An Yuyun felt that it was an honor. No woman had given birth to two snakes. Snake King Ning Shu said, "Although we are rivals in love, we shouldn't fight like this for An Yuyun." Ning Shu's heart did not waver. He even wanted to laugh. What was this? If it was for the client, it would be okay. But for her, she did not show that she liked An Yuyun. Snake King wanted to divide her and the investigation bureau. He wanted to let the people in the investigation bureau know that they were rivals in love and that there was an Yu-Yun. And Yu-Yun played a decisive role. And Yu-Yun felt dizzy, and her body felt very uncomfortable. Her body couldn't bear the devastation from all sides. And Yu-Yun wanted to leave here. She really wanted to. When Yu-Yun heard Snake King say that Ning Shu liked her, she was a little embarrassed. It was not like he liked her. But Yu-Yun still begged Ning Shu, "Please let us go. If we fight like this, we will only hurt each other." Ning Shu suddenly felt that he had become a stick to break up a couple. Snake King stuck out his forked tongue. "How about we leave together? We can share the demon." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and asked, "There is only one demon. How can we share it?" "You are also a demon. You should understand the problem that demons are facing now. Soon, there will be no place for demons," Snake King Ning Shu said. It seemed that Snake King was right. The female director looked at Ning Shu and said lightly, "You can leave with Snake King, but you will be wanted by the investigation bureau. You decide." Ning Shu was speechless. "Fuck, what does it have to do with me? I was just here to watch the show. Why did I get involved?" It seemed that Ning Shu had become the key person now. Ning Shu said, "You guys continue to fight. Pretend that I don't exist." The female director Ning Shu said, "After cleaning up, you should also go to the investigation bureau to make a statement." "I didn't do anything. Why do I have to make a statement?" Ning Shu frowned and asked. "It's just a matter of perfecting your file. We, the investigation bureau, have to be aware of the stronger demons." This mission enforcer was really integrated into the identity of the director. Ning Shu now had a distrust of both the investigation bureau and Snake King. Ning Shu would not cooperate with Snake King, but it seemed that he would be forced to go to the investigation bureau. Chapter 1711. The Snake King spat out its scarlet tongue and said, "Retarded eagle, listen to me. Basically, no monster can walk out of the investigation bureau alive. You are no exception. Remove the enchantment. I will take you with me to the monster realm. What happened before was a misunderstanding. I misunderstood that you were not good to my woman and child. I will make it up to you." This was the first time the Snake King had admitted defeat in its life. The female director looked at Ning Shu silently. "If we can cooperate, let's cooperate. Let's not have internal strife." Ning Shu understood what the female director meant, but Ning Shu was resistant to going to the investigation bureau. This feeling could not be dispelled. Also, the Snake King might not be lying. Now that the Snake King wanted to rope her in, even if what it said was half true, it still showed that the investigation bureau was a forbidden place for monsters. Also, Ning Shu was now a body of laws, and the law imprint could be taken away. Ning Shu could not guarantee that no one would covet her imprint. After all, with the law imprint, not only did she control the power of law, but she also had the support of a law city. She could just lie down and collect money. Moreover, there was no prohibition against this kind of plundering. Therefore, Ning Shu had to be vigilant. If the other party did not know her identity, it would be fine. But if they knew her identity and came for her, it would be more troublesome. The Snake King looked at Ning Shu with its vertical eyes. "Everything I said is true. Humans are envious of the lifespan of monsters. They have been studying our genes. Many monsters have died." Ning Shu patted her chest and hit her wound. She immediately hissed in pain. "It hurts. It's so scary. Sister, I'm here." A young man appeared at the door and walked in slowly. He glanced at the messy living room and walked to the female director's side. "Why did you call me back in such a hurry?" This man was very young. It seemed that he could not be called a man, but a boy. He was about 22 or 23 years old, youthful and energetic. Dressed in neat clothes, he looked at the female director with adoration in his eyes. Ning Shu thought, taboo love? Hearing this boy call the female bureau chief sister, is it a form of address or are they really related by blood? However, this had nothing to do with her. She was more concerned about the changes this boy's appearance would bring to the battle. The female director introduced him to Ning Shu. "This is Nangong, the genius exorcist of the Nangong family. Ning Shu replied with an "oh." He felt that the female director was warning him. The snake demon stole the demon from the investigation bureau. You should know the importance of demons. Go, Nangong. Big sister believes in you. The female director said gently to the boy. Go, Pikachu. The boy's eyes lit up and he was full of energy. Yes, wait for me. I'll skin the snake demon and give it to you. The boy looked as if he wanted to do something for the person he loved, to please the person he loved. The female director nodded. The Snake King was about to explode from anger. A little brat who hadn't even grown out all his hair actually wanted to skin him alive. He didn't even look at his own weight. The Snake King spat out a mouthful of venom at Nangong, who was charging towards it, and swept its tail towards Nangong. Nangong dodged the venom and took out a rope. The rope was golden in color. Nangong threw the rope towards the Snake King and it wrapped around the Snake King's body. And Yu Yun was also tied up with the rope. The Snake King struggled with all his might, trying to break free from the rope. However, he couldn't really break free from the rope. The Snake King frowned. What the hell was this? Nangong said in high spirits, Demon. This is our Nangong family's heirloom. It's a demon binding rope that specializes in binding demons. All right, stop playing, the female director said to Nangong. Yes. Nangong saluted the female director, looking very lively and mischievous. Nangong took out a dagger. It looked like he was going to use this dagger to skin the Snake King. Big sister, you haven't used the Snake King's skin to make a bag, right? I'll skin it for you to make a bag later, Nangong said to the female director as he played with the dagger. The female director was a little serious. Don't be careless. The Snake King was speechless. The Snake King was a lawless person. Today, someone wanted to skin him to make a bag. The Snake King struggled with all his might, but he couldn't break free from the rope for a while. He looked at the kid carelessly holding the dagger and scratching his body. The Snake King sneered. When he dominated the world, this kid was still drinking milk. He thought a rope could tie him up. Wasn't he looking down on him too much? And Yu Yun was trembling in fear. She was so scared that she cried. She begged Nangong, why can't you let him go? Let us go. Hey, you are a human, right? Why are you speaking up for the demon? Nangong said bluntly. Do you know that if it weren't for the investigation bureau intimidating the demon would have killed people in human territory. Now, you should be reincarnated as a human. You are actually pleading for mercy for the demon. Whether you are a human or not is determined by your position at birth. You are actually so stupid as to plead for mercy for the demon. Idiot. Nangong Xiaodan was really a straightforward boy. After he finished speaking, he even asked for credit from the female bureau chief. Sister, don't you think I am right? And Yu Yun was stunned by Nangong Xiaoyan's words. Probably because she had never been spoken to like this before, she directly cried. Don't be naughty. Hurry up and get the demon out. The female bureau chief shook her head and said to Nangong. Nangong held the dagger. The dagger was very sharp. It directly cut through the Snake King's snake skin. Blood splashed out. Daddy! The two little snakes cried anxiously. There are still two little snakes. Nangong Xiaotian didn't have the slightest bit of pity for the demon. He directly grabbed the two little snakes. Sister, look at these two snakes. They are a black and white pair. Ning Shu was speechless. What was the matter with this Nangong Xiaoan who suddenly appeared? It seemed that he was a demon-catching expert. She had to be more vigilant later. Nangong played with the two snakes back and forth. He tied the two snakes into a knot or pulled the bodies of the two snakes long. Daddy, save me, save us. The two little snakes painfully begged the Snake King for help. Nangong laughed heartily like a lively boy. He held the dagger and stabbed it into the little black snake's head, piercing through its brain. The little black snake whose head was pierced by the dagger was still constantly curling up and struggling. Nangong grabbed the little black snake's head and pressed the dagger with one hand. With a hard pull, the little black snake's body in Nangong's hand was cut into two halves. White flesh was exposed. Nangong dismembered the little white snake and said to the female bureau chief, "This kind of little snake must be very fresh. Take it back and roast it." Nangong said it easily, as if he was talking about the weather today. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.